Hello? Hello, hello? Can you all hear me? Hello, 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 hello? It's been forever since I went live on this channel. So I thought I would see what happens if I go live at this hour. Like how many people will show up, you know? Oh, hi there, May. It's wonderful to have you here. You're my first. Hi, Sophia. Welcome, everyone. I just got done filming a new video, which I'll be editing tonight. So I just wanted to hop on here and say hey to everyone. Heat from Fire. Welcome, Clarissa. Welcome, Weird Silver Tetrafluoroborate. Casper Natrix, Focal Cone, Danny, Sophia. Name that is Japanese characters, I think, that I can't pronounce. Welcome. Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here. Gosh, I've never live streamed this late on the channel. I've always tried to live stream at a peak traffic time. So I thought I would hop on it tonight and see how everyone's doing. Hi, Kylie. Great to see you in chat. You look awesome at this time of night. Oh, well, thank you. Hello, welcome, Yuanuo, Ellie Winchester, Vampirina, Jojo Bonono, The Skeletal Queen, Mandy Knight, Abby B. New video. Yeah, I just got done filming one, so it should be done. I don't think it'll take too long to edit. There's been this other video I've been working on for a bit. You didn't expect me to pronounce your name correctly. Well, I do love language. Yeah, I've been working on a bunch of videos actually. I just finished one tonight that's going to be very useful, and I should be able to get that out in a shorter period of time. But I'm working on oh gosh, thank you so much for the super chat. I just saw that come in. I don't know who it was because it hasn't popped up in the feed. Oh, Kinda Skylar, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Oh, thanks for all your videos. They helped you find a passing voice, Jamoko. That's so wonderful. I'm really thankful to be able to help in that way. But yeah, no, I've been working on a lot of videos. In case you guys don't know, obviously my channel's been a little quiet the past month. I was sick for 3 weeks of October. When September started to end and October began. Oh my gosh, thank you, Jamoko. I really appreciate that so much. And yeah, so I'll tell a little story about my health, because that's why I haven't posted a video in a month or so. It's not that I'm not doing anything. So, oh, you seem pretty frantic. Oh, I'm just happy to see everyone. It's been a while since I've streamed on here. I love being here with everybody. So, yeah, so let's see. Early October, I got sick with a viral infection. Do y'all want to hear what I sounded like? Check this out. So I got sick with a viral infection, respiratory and sinus. It wasn't COVID. I tested negative for COVID twice. So I had that. And then about a week and a half later, it got a little worse. And I went to the doctor, and they think that I had a bacterial infection that came after. So I went from a viral infection to a bacterial infection. And that kind of knocked me out for 2.5 weeks. And then I got on antibiotics. I worked and I taught for about a week. And then after I got off antibiotics, it kind of got worse. So, but now I'm in much better health. I've worked this past week. I had to reschedule 55 lessons, which was super chaotic, but I got it all taken care of. So I'm pretty much all caught up on stuff. But check this out. Here's what my voice sounded like. Here's what my voice sounded like when I was sick. This is when I was starting to get sick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Isn't
9,
that sad?
10. And if I go a little lower, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Isn't that so sad? Gosh. And then listen, it got all the way to this point. Here you go.
Me trying to talk right now.
It's so sad.
Over this is me trying to talk right now. I'm trying to talk and I can't make any sound.
It literally sounds like a bird struggling to operate. So that was really frustrating, and that's where I've been the last 3 weeks. So and since Addie's here, and also welcome everyone I hadn't said hey to in chat yet. I know, isn't that so sad, everyone? Gosh. And then I showed some people this one. So lately I've been practicing my masculine voice because it's hard for me to do, and I want to be able to do a masculine voice for demonstration purposes.
Right now, if I try to work really masculine, I can produce down here or whatever.
But since I had so much swelling and I had so much irritation, I managed to create this. This sounds like Corpse Husband. Take a listen.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Isn't that cool? I actually think that's awesome. I wish I could do that all the time, but not be sick all the time, you know? So that's probably like the lowest I've ever gone in my life, like literally. And it was really, really fascinating. I wasn't able to do, so that was like that for like, that was like if I try really hard to go as low as possible. But generally speaking, I kind of sounded like this most.
So I just woke up and
this is me when I like just woke up, was just like straight out of bed.
this is about the clearest I sounded in several.
And then I like cough after that, which is really sad. Also, here's me trying to sing. I think this is it. Isn't that sad? Literally all I was trying to sing there was this or I was trying to sing just a still sound womanly. Thank you. Hi, welcome Brandy Young. We're just vibing. Hi there, video game lover. Hi there, Learn to Gamers. Hi there, John Bradbury. Hi there, Derek Neeland. Hi there, Ia. Girl, you sound like you died. Yeah, I know, right? That's why I haven't dropped a video in the last month or so. But don't worry, I've got a lot of stuff I've been working on. A lot of really exciting projects, actually. Don't go low. If I try to go low right now, this is like what I can like get to, which I think is like which I think is pretty decent right now. Let's see here. That's impressive. Good job. Thanks. With your lessons, can I switch instantly between high and low voice? My friends joke I have the Binet Gesserit voice from Dune. Yeah, you know, it's less so like based on what lessons you take or who you work with, and more so what you do with your voice, right? Like if you don't nurture different voices, they'll tend to fade. So this doesn't happen for everyone, but depending on what you normalize, it can make the things away from it harder. But if you're trying to normalize two different voices and you're frequently exploring both of them, you shouldn't have any problem in going back and forth between voices. I've only lost my masculine voice because, and you know, I say that kind of loosely, like if I'm sick, like you saw, I can probably get it back if I have swelling, but like when I'm like, okay, I typically can't do it just because those like behaviors are not natural for me anymore. They don't feel comfortable. They're kind of awkward. And it takes me a bit of practice to try to do them again. So, yeah, if you nurture both, you won't lose it. I didn't use a masculine voice for 3 to 4, 5 years, around that length of time. And when I went back to try and do it, I just wasn't capable of doing it very often. So sometimes there's little moments where I have some swelling, or, you know, I've like spent maybe like an hour trying to sound masculine and I can do it again. But if I've been speaking as I'm speaking right now, which is like my default kind of sound, I'd say this is a little more feminine than my default just because, you know, I'm on like talking to people right now or whatever. But typically after I've talked like regularly throughout the day, it's really hard for me to go lower, but you should be able to if you practice it. A question: I'm using your lessons to raise my register. Don't know exactly what you mean by register because that's kind of a loaded term, but it seems to have a limit that is higher than my normal voice. I think I know what you mean now. Not as high as I would like. How do I raise my register further? Well, that usage of the term register is a little unclear, but I think you mean like pitch versus weight. In that case, you'll definitely want to experiment a lot more. Typically there is going to be a higher threshold where you tend to not be able to go higher, like without belting, but that area is very movable. It's not like fixed, right? So if you find that, definitely experiment with different combinations of different volume, different amounts of weight, and see if you can access that space more slowly. Also, if you're really wanting to continue pushing your like bass voice up higher, and I don't mean bass isn't like low, I mean like your like basic speaking voice or singing voice, belting is going to be something you'll want to explore, but you know, I haven't made any resources on that, so just keep that in mind for sure. Let's see here. Gosh, there's lots of lovely questions. Hi Crystal, give me your attention, be mine, I love you. Oh dear, I'll give you some attention. Giving you attention right now. Last round says, quick question, guys. Is she trans? Yes, I am trans. That is correct. I am a trans person. That's right. Don't go. Hello. Welcome, Saber Films. Welcome, Lunari. Welcome, Mr. Glock. Welcome, Last Round. Welcome, Friday. Mullen Freeman. Welcome, Crystal. Welcome, Madison. Welcome, Simp for Pacino. Welcome, Mandy Knight. I already welcomed you. Why me? Step on you? Maybe. Okay. Hi there. I was trying the tutorials on your channel. I cannot do the flick R1 thing. Person X. Yeah, I'll give you a tip for that. Typically, oh, and don't forget to like this stream, everybody. I see some little likes trickling in. If everyone likes it right now, it'll like double. But to answer your question, Person X, you need to hold your breath when you flick. A lot of people write to me and say, oh, I've seen your video where you flick your throat and I can't do that. Well, it's because I'm holding my breath during that. If I don't hold my breath, it won't work. And that's because when you hold your breath, your vocal folds close off and your velum or your soft palate, which is this little door back here, it closes. And so if you're tapping your throat here and it's not making any sound, it's because either this chamber is open, so you're losing some of that sound down there, or this chamber is open, so it's absorbing more of that sound. If you hold your breath, you'll close this off and you'll close this off, and then all you'll hear is this sort of chamber getting energy put inside of it, which will show you what your resonance sounds like. Now, I wouldn't recommend every beginner do that. So, I did that in my video to demonstrate, which is why I didn't explain how to do it in the video. But if that's something that interests you or you want to play with, definitely go for it. Can someone tell you the stream rules? Just vibe, no racist stuff, no transphobic stuff, no be a human being that's compassionate and caring and respectful to others. And I think that's about it for the stream rules. Let's see here. I have a question. So when I speak, normally I get a feminine voice, but when I try yelling, it goes deep. How do I fix that? Yeah, so that's a pretty interesting question. There's several reasons why this can occur. It just depends. So probably what's happening is you're yelling and you're getting a lot heavier, and then you're also pushing more, and you're not used to maintaining a smaller vocal tract size when you push more, and so it kind of changes. So one thing I would recommend doing is trying to learn how to yell where you move your pitch up. If you're here and then you're gonna try to raise your pitch like that, because it'll make it a lot easier for you to yell in a feminine voice if you raise your pitch usually. Now, another thing I want to say about that is the reason why it's often hard. Well, there's kind of two reasons why it's hard for people to yell in a feminine voice when they're first getting started. The main reason for that is because in cis population and average speaking population, when you go to yell, you typically raise your resonance. And when you're trans feminine and you're already feminizing your resonance and then you try to yell, it's like multiplicatively more resonance modification that you have to do. So when you start to push harder, you might find that you accidentally drop resonance lower, or you don't change your resonance at all. In that case, it won't sound like what you're looking for. You actually need to adjust your resonance even further up. So I like to do something very slow. I would recommend just trying to start with your speaking voice and gradually add volume to it while increasing resonance. There's basically two primary pathways for yelling. Either you stay lighter and you go up in pitch, and that will allow you to stay light, or you stay at the same pitch and get a lot heavier, and in that case, you'll need to modify resonance a lot more. So in terms of your question, how to practice that, it just depends on what you're going for. If you're wanting to keep the weight you have, then you will have to go up in pitch. If you want to get heavier, you'll need to stay at the same, or not stay at the same pitch, but if you want to just get louder but retain the speaking quality you have, you'll want to get a lot heavier and modify your resonance higher. So I hope that's helpful. I've been thinking about making a video about that for a while, but it's probably the maybe 4th or 5th on my to-do list. I just filmed a video tonight, which I'll be editing, and then I have another video I've been working on over the past 2 days that I really like a lot that I'll probably put out before that. So hopefully that's helpful. What's the best advice for remembering not to fall back down during the day? Well, that's tough. For me, it was dysphoria, so it's gonna be different for everybody. That's why it's very important to be able to jump into the voice you want very easily, because then once you notice you're not doing it, you'll be able to jump back to it very quickly, so it's not a dialing in process. It's going to be different for everyone. I'm the kind of person that when I'm trying to do something when I'm trying to fix something like that was making me dysphoric, it was hard to forget. It was pretty much the only thing I could think about when I would talk to people. But it'll be different for everybody. Maybe a reminder on your phone, or sticky notes throughout your house, or having a friend or a significant other or person that cares about you try to remind you, to reset your voice. I had one student the other day say that, they enlisted their friend to help them practice their voice, and anytime their friend thought that they sounded maybe not as good as they've been wanting to sound, their friend would just say, "I'm sorry, I can't hear you." sorry, what did you say? Like as a friendly way to remind their friend, like, you know, you're not doing what you were trying to practice. So that seemed to be helpful for them. Also, I'd recommend for everyone to start a practice log. I had a student the other day come in with like a 9-page, or was it 9-page, 3-page? It was a multiple page practice log, and it was very simple and very straightforward, but it was very effective. So definitely make a practice log if you haven't already, or if you haven't considered one. I was wondering if the lessons are all booked up for group sessions for voice lessons next year. I'm gonna open up the next wave of group lessons starting probably within the next 2 weeks or so. We're actually gonna do 2 separate group lessons next time. We're gonna do a 6-week group course and a 12-week group course. We are about 7 weeks into our 12-week group course right now. It's been very awesome. It's had a lot of great reception, and we've been optimizing things. However, Clover and I both thought that it would be really cool to do a 6-week course where it's more distilled, it's more concentrated, and it will cover like the very core foundations and be a bit more affordable and less of like a time investment. So we're going to be opening up on the website slots for a 12-week course and a 6-week course. So if you're interested in that, be on the lookout for that. I'll probably make an announcement when I open those as well, because I know that we sold out of the group course spots last time rather quickly. Let's see here. Question. Oh gosh, Wonder, thank you so much. Also, I'm sorry if I'm missing people who are just joining. I started getting a bunch of questions and I really wanted to answer those, so give me a second. I'll try to work my way down. Oh, I missed a bunch. Wait, how do I get a higher? You asked that earlier, I think. Let's see here. I have normalized both voices, use message practice. I can pretty much sing male. Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Give your attention. I did that. Mina Velasquez, welcome. Luis Richardson, welcome. You've been taking singing lessons online. You've raised your lowest pitch as well as your highest, and you're happy with that. I love that. That's awesome. Wonderful. Hideyoshi Kinoshita, good morning, ma'am. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I have a question. So when I speak, I normally get a feminine voice. Oh, I already answered that. Okay, so now I actually went too far up. Still cis, though. I'm not cis, though. I'm trans. So, you know, how do you get a cool, smoky lesbian voice? I think I know what you mean. The term lesbian voice is a bit sus to me, you know, because I just think that sexuality doesn't really define voice quality. But I know what you mean. That sort of rougher, you mean like something more in this direction here. Well, you're definitely going to want to have really good control over resonance, and in particular, you're going to want to work your pitch against your resonance so it's easy for you to create combinations of a smaller vocal tract at lower pitches. And then you're probably going to want to add, like you said, that smokiness, some breathiness back into the voice. That's like the general recipe to create a sound like that. You know, there's also like those kind of more qualities where it's like more like rough like that or whatever. So typically when you're thinking about like a rougher, husky, feminine voice, you're going to want the same principles that make you feminize your voice in the first place, which is a much smaller vocal tract. And then you're going to want to bring the pitch down because that's one of the key elements to it. Typically, if you have a smaller vocal tract and you bring your pitch down, it'll make the voice sound a little bit buzzier naturally, like so. Ah, 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 ah. You hear that? It's kind of getting that like grittiness back in. Even without the grittiness, it starts to make it sound more like buzzy like that, right? And then I'm simply adding like an extra layer of breathiness to get the extra noise. Or if I want something that's more like creaky, I can add like a little bit of creak in the noise, and then I've got like that combination. So I hope that helps you in achieving your sort of husky or quote unquote lesbian voice. You know, I don't think that all lesbian identifying people have butch voices or husky voices, so I'm a little bit sussed out on the term lesbian voice, but I get what you mean, and it's a pretty valuable thing. Cool. I haven't even noticed you're so cunning. Hi, I don't have any voice questions, but I'm a month on HRT. Congratulations, Vaporesque. That's wonderful. Catching Stream. Yes, welcome. Abigail Onstadt, welcome. Sienna Gears, welcome. Wow, that works. I'm so glad it worked for you. And that answered your question about the tapping thing. Also, thanks for the person who super chatted. I think I already thanked them, but there's been 3 of you. Thank you so much. That really means a lot. And now I'm falling behind still. Everyone cool streaming today. That's cool. I'm glad to hear that. I turned my stream on just because I had filmed a video earlier and I was like, hey, I might as well hop on. I've never streamed this late at night, and I was curious, like, what's the viewership like at this hour? Because I'm usually up at this hour. I have pretty degenerate sleeping habits, and so if people are around at this time, I can stream more often. I'm definitely not like a daytime streamer. So basically, female singing is just lightweight singing. No, because if I do something like that's not very lightweight, right? But yet it still sounds feminine. singing is very dynamic in the way that we use weight and weight against pitch. Really, when you're thinking about feminine singing, a lot of that to me comes from the fullness, which is something that Clover and I talked about and we've been developing in our model. Fullness is this idea of the intersection between weight and resonance, and certain combinations of weight and resonance will be perceived as over full, under full, or sufficiently full. And really, when we're thinking about feminized singing, we're kind of trying to track that sort of adequately full feminine sound. One of the things that makes feminized singing hard is that the pitch is so dynamic and the weight is so dynamic, and when the pitch goes up, you have to correspondingly increase your resonance further. So the higher you go in pitch, the more resonance modification you will need, and that often makes it hard for people. So for instance, I put a video out about this on my Patreon recently, so just a little plug. If you're not a member of my Patreon, feel free to join. Even $1 a month is cool, and so basically this idea of a big problem that people have when they try to feminize their singing voice is something like this. Here it starts to sound less full, sounds more hollow. That's because my pitch is outpacing my resonance, and so we can look for moments like that and then try to learn how to keep it locked in, like so. I'm working my weight against my resonance, against my pitch, and creating something that sounds adequately full the whole way instead of getting that sort of boyish hollowness in the voice, okay? So there's honestly a lot about feminized singing. I would say that feminized singing is very similar to feminized speaking, except when we're singing, there's tremendously more variance. There's just more variables in play. You sing across a wider range than you speak across typically. You typically use a wider volume range than what you speak at typically. You typically have a wider range of sort of vowel modification that occurs when you're singing. So singing has a lot of extra variance in it, but the fundamental core principles of modifying the sex of a voice are still fairly the same. There's just more situations. I like to think about it like a fighting game. You can go in the lab on a fighting game and work out a certain combo, but getting that combo to come out during the fray is a little bit more challenging, even though you've developed the technical ability you need to execute it. But you have to just gain awareness of each different situation and look for when you can integrate that back into the process. I'm so far behind on questions. I'm going to skip a couple. She's so talented. Her lessons work. Thank you. Random question. What's your favorite Ariana song? Honestly, right now, it's going to change. It's going to change like week to week. But right now, Thank You Next. I love that song. It just makes me feel so bubbly. I'm transgender, about to start my transition, have a deep voice. Sometimes I get sad about it, but when I watch your videos and practice what inspires you, I'm so glad to hear that. I was wondering if someone could recommend some tips for someone who has a moderately high voice. What videos should I peep if I get called ma'am at customer service but struggle with pitch and cadence? To help you with pitch and cadence, I would strongly suggest making a playlist of feminine voices that you like the sound of, and then listening to that playlist and trying to imitate different gestures that they do. I would also recommend listening to that playlist and putting it on in the background. So once you've made that playlist, you can put it on in the background and every now and then try to imitate a sound, and then also just run it on in the background, and you'll start to consume some of those gestures. Think about it like soaking your ears in the sound that you want. It'll make it a lot easier to get some of that intonation and pitch gesture stuff down if you are able to hear it more clearly, and you can hear it a lot more clearly if you immerse yourself in the sound first off. Also, if you're already starting to get mammed just because of the pitch of your voice, it might also be great for you to work on your resonance as well. Oh, I answered that question, Akemi. I don't know if you were here. Been watching your videos since the beginning of junior year and still watching today by my senior year. I'll be full wham. Lol. It's so wonderful to have you here, Brianna. Thanks. Question, what's your best advice? I'm so far back. Oh my gosh. Okay. Scrolling down a little bit, because if I miss questions and they're super important, feel free to ask them. But let me just go ahead. Welcome, Billy Huston. Welcome, Willow Gillingham. Welcome, Horathian Rabbit. Welcome, Vertigo Away. I like that name. Welcome, everybody. Gosh, everyone. It's so wonderful to have you all here. I didn't think there was going to be this many people at night, but that fills my heart with joy. What would you recommend to someone who keeps forgetting? Oh, I think I said, that's tough, Avery. That's very tough, because what motivates you is going to be different for every person. So, if you find that you're having difficulty finding motivation in what you're doing, maybe something motivational strategies can help you, but it's going to be different for everybody. I would recommend trying to identify the reason why you find it hard to be consistent. If you're just forgetting, try to create more reminders. If it's dysphoria, try to work through some of your dysphoria. It's just going to be different for everyone. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution for keeping up practice consistent. I think of TransVoiceLessons at its full. Julian, hi. I think of TransVoice at its fullest as revolutionary and innovative for all. Oh, completely agree. What do you think we'll see by 2030? Voices soul. How does cis people gain from TransVoice? Is it a 40? Yeah, I mean, there's literally so much that cis people can gain from TransVoice. I mean, really, the way I look at the research I've been doing with Clover is we've very much codified exactly what is responsible for having voices be perceived masculine or feminine, and then we've discretized the sensory experience of those acoustic parameters into easy ways to hear, easy language to describe, and ultimately easier language to work around and teach. I think there's still optimizations to be made in the model, but for me, I've always been interested in extracting and generalizing those out to more cis people. Now, that being said, I don't know if I'll get to do that as much as I want, just because I'm actually wanting to do more music, you know? So I'll do as much as I can with sort of spreading those resources to cis people at some point in the future. But for now, I definitely prioritize trans people just because I think we're really in need and most vulnerable, and it's very important for us. But God, there's so much stuff. I mean, trans voice is revolutionary and it is innovative. I personally think that the entire model of IPA needs to be revised. I'm going to make a video on that soon, simply just because there's massive missing dimensions out of vowel perception that are not even included at all in IPA, right? Based on what IPA says in terms of the position of things, it doesn't make sense how gender would work in voice. There's also, so I think IPA needs to be revolutionized, and the basic field of phonetics needs to be revolutionized from this stuff. I think that, honestly, speech perception research in general can be revolutionized through this stuff. There's so many different things. I also think that singing will have a revolution from the periphery of trans voice stuff, simply because there's just like, oh, can you guys all see me? It says, there we go. It said I lost my connection for a second. Simply because, like, when we think about different singing models like Estel or CVT or whatever, or speech level singing, I mean, they're honestly filled with problems. And the onset models for all of them are very problematic. The way they talk about vocal weight is pretty problematic in some of them. The way that all singing models think about resonance is busted. It's trash, you know? So, I mean, I think what's happening in the trans voice space is really exciting, and I think it is going to create a revolution in singing eventually, a revolution in speech pathology, a revolution in phonetics, a revolution thus in linguistics. I mean, I personally think that trans people, particularly individuals such as myself, Clover, and other students and so forth who have learned how to feminize their voice and can go between voices very freely, we are an incredibly useful resource to understand more about voice, because if we can actually, you know, feminize and masculinize and play, and we can really discretize out what causes perception to bend that way. And, you know, if you stick us in an MRI, you're going to learn a lot more about how voice works and how resonance works and how modifications of voice work than if you stick a cis person in an MRI. So I personally think, yes, I agree. Trans voice is very revolutionary, and I'm very thankful to be a part of that, and I'm thankful for the community's support in pursuing that. So I get constantly gendered speaking correctly. Let's see here. Is there a way to determine, but I still feel like I can't sing like a woman. This comes back to some of what I said before. I haven't made a lot of videos on that topic yet, but I did make some stuff on my Patreon recently about that. I'll probably eventually publish that more publicly on YouTube. Is there a way to determine if your vocal tract length is too long to achieve feminine resonance? Well, let's just say there's almost no chance that your vocal tract is naturally too large to feminize your voice. So you would have to have like very significantly large vocal tract outside the average for that to occur. And I personally haven't really met anybody. If anything, I've met people who find it harder to reduce weight and go higher in pitch than people who have trouble reducing enough space. However, resonance is hard. So if you're trying to modify your resonance and it doesn't feel successful, that doesn't mean you're like biologically or physiologically screwed. You know, it's just that resonance is kind of hard at first. So be aware of that. Love you. Oh, hi there. Will have a bad impact. Will it have a bad impact if I sing while transitioning? No, it'll be great for you. Do it. I wish I had a Billie Eilish or Clairo kind of voice. I really like their voices. Yeah, lovely voices. Night Shift Gang, that's me. Waterbean, welcome. iCalvi, welcome. Gotta Love Insomnia, welcome, 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 welcome. Mangoes. Any tips on getting started? Don't be too hard on yourself at first, just make sound and play. The more you make sound and play and experiment with your body, the easier it's going to be for you. Don't put your goalpost at the very end when you get started. Think about it this way: if you just make a little bit of sound, you should pat yourself on the back and feel good about that. Okay, so there's a lot of different things I could say about getting started, but I'd recommend watching my how to practice video. There's a lot of mentality things in that will apply to you if you're just getting started. Longtime fan, feel like I have a pretty deep voice, but I'd love to find my feminine voice. I don't have something in particular in mind. It's so great to have you here, Loafing Bread. I hope you the best with your voice explorations. I'm literally crying now. You're so beautiful. I got emotional from watching you as a trans person. You achieved your dreams. Last round, that really means a lot. I'm sorry you're crying. I hope it's a positive kind of cry. I've worked very hard on my transition at this point. I've been transitioning for about 6.5 years or so, and I still feel like I have a long way to go, but I appreciate the kind words. Is it possible to achieve a feminine singing tone before a feminine speaking tone? Absolutely, Benzel. You can, a great example of that, just think about Anthony Green from Circa Survive. He doesn't necessarily sound like feminine, but he does, but he doesn't sound like female necessarily, but he has a very feminine voice, and his speaking voice is kind of neutral. Also, you can look at that person who, what's that person's name, who sings A Whole New World, or in both sort of sexed voices. That person's a singer and can sound feminine when they sing, but I don't think he has a feminine speaking voice, and by voice equals soul, what is the inner limitation in one modifying their voice versus letting their voice color them? Yeah, so this comes up sometimes. I think whatever you want to create is your soul. I think that, for instance, when you're talking about your instrument coloring your voice, we don't treat it that way when we're thinking about piano, right? If you're playing on an old piano that is a kind of out of tune, we wouldn't say that that's the soul of the musician playing the instrument. We would say the way the musician is interacting with the instrument is their soul. I don't think your physiology or biomechanics is your soul. I think the way that you animate your biomechanics and animate your instrument and express intention and will through your instrument is where the aspect of soul comes out. So in terms of how much do you want to let your voice color based on your physiology? However much you want, and that decision of how much you let it is part of the decision of your soul, right? So for me, I don't want my physical instrument to have very much influence over the way I sound. I want my sound to be purely in my hands, and that's a decision that my soul has made. If someone else wants the physiology of their instrument, which once again, even that's a very gray line, because it's not like you sound the way you do because of physiology, right? And even after you modify your voice, if you still have habits that come out, that's also, we can't say that's based on your physiology. It's based on your past behavior animating physiology. If we just have physiology existing in a vacuum, there is no sound, right? The thing that animates the physiology is the behavior, is the action, is where voice comes from, and ultimately that is where the soul comes from, in my opinion. So, I think your question's a great question, and the answer of, how much should one let that modify, that is a question your soul answers. I don't think that, by modifying past quote unquote your biomechanics all the way, you're removing any aspect of your soul, right? If your soul says you don't want to do that, then that's what the soul expression will be. So that's my thing. Really enjoying your voice, by the way. Thank you, Loafing Bread. I'm happy to have my voice back after being sick for 3 weeks. It was a miserable time. Pretty sure I've watched it. I guess the mental block. How do you control resonance? That's a big question. I just did a 4-hour workshop on resonance recently, and I've made some videos on that. I'm going to release a new video soon on resonance, so instead of answering it here and taking a bunch of time, I'm going to try to stay up with chat, so definitely read that. Wasn't ready for the fighting game analogy. Wow, I must be so behind, huh? Because I said that probably 10 minutes ago. So, there's just so much stuff. Love my music. Thank you. It's gonna be interesting. Love that. Love that. Love that. Oh my gosh, there's just so much stuff. I want to scroll down and catch up with everyone, but there's been so much stuff. That music studio looks cool. Thank you. It's a bit of a mess right now, but always moving things around. I have someone who's gonna help me decorate and put some shelves up and stuff soon. So there's a lot of extra things I've got planned for my studio that are gonna make it pop even more. I really want to create a beautiful space to film in. Gosh, thank you for what you do. Thank you, Caden. I really appreciate that. Rien Zito, welcome. Melina Campbell, welcome. Sadie P. Willow Gillingham, I've welcomed some of these. My first time being on your stream, and it's very nervous to try to ask you a question with so many here. Aw, well, you're welcome. Can everyone say hi to Sierra and welcome her, or they? I assume her, but welcome her to the stream. Hey, you skipped right past my question as the next one up. I was wondering if you have any tips for someone who medicinally smokes, because the smoke affects my throat. Stay super hydrated. Try to cool your smoke. And smoke is that's a tough one. I mean, I smoke, or I don't smoke cigarettes, but I lived in Portland and I lived in Seattle, so I've lived in recreational states for cannabis, and yeah, it does affect your voice. If it's medicinal, I assume you're smoking in the morning. For some particular reason, that'll make it hard. I would recommend resting your voice in the morning, warming up, hydrating really well, and then smoking, and trying to speak with a pure voice so that you reduce irritation. As a vocal professional, I cannot recommend anyone to smoke because it's, like you said, irritating to your voice. But if done in a fairly conservative way, you can smoke and preserve your voice as you practice and so forth. However, as a vocal professional, I have to tell people, well, if you need to use cannabis medicinally, maybe you could try edibles. Maybe you could try a different kind of vaporizer that also cools the smoke. Maybe you could try a water bubbler. I don't know. It just depends. But what's happening there is the superheated smoke particles are what's damaging you. Vapor tends to affect the vocal folds a little less because the particles are more fine and they're not like harsh, like they're not particles suspended in smoke, right? It's like water vapor. So it just depends. Those are some of those things that I would recommend. Let's see here. I thought her monologues about vocal cords were hard to get now. She said a fighting game example, and I'm sure those were easier to get than anything fighting game. I love fighting games. Okay. Yes, I love your songs. Thank you. My second week of girlfriend training. Your voices. Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to hear that. Green Keldo. Welcome, Zach Webb. Welcome, Jess Lavender. Welcome, Bree J. First time live. Awesome. It's great to have you here. Everyone, welcome Bree to her first live stream with us. There we go, everyone. When you think of CVT, you think about CVT transmission. Here's a funny 3-syllable one. Cognitive behavioral therapy? Every time I think about that, I chuckle. Don't you think it's funny that happens to share an acronym with, well, I think those in chat will who know. Let's see. I don't have privacy in my house. I actually want to make a video on how to practice without people knowing. Some of the methods I've talked about in the bizarre way to practice resonance with noise, that's a great way to work on that. You can also practice your vocal weight and pitch stuff under the guise of singing. So if you're living in an unsupportive environment, you can make it seem like you're practicing singing for a lot of it, and then the stuff you're doing with resonance, you can practice at fairly quiet levels. And then maybe when you try to combine your voice with your resonance or whatever, maybe walk outside your house, go take a walk around the block or something. There's definitely strategies for people who live in unsafe environments to still get some good progress. Could you play some guitar or keyboard for us? Yeah, maybe. I actually have the Lumitone turned on down here. That's why I'm glowing blue. So I might play some of that, or I might play some Pulsar 46. I've got 2 Pulsar 23s, which is crazy. It's a little excessive, I know, but I couldn't help myself. So I have a Pulsar 46, which is crazy. I think it might be the first Pulsar 46. Let's see here. Oh, you look nice, by the way. Thank you, Ava Sinclair. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I was wondering if you know how to do a Billie Eilish voice. I actually made a video 2 months ago, Vocal Coach Reacts to Billie Eilish. I talk about some of how Billie Eilish sings in that video, so maybe that's useful for you. Thank you so much for the free advice. Of course. I actually have a question. Is there any way you got used to your new name? I picked the right name. I first picked the wrong name, and I never got used to it, and then I picked the right name, and it fits like a glove. But it was definitely weird at first. And there was probably 3 years in a row where I would hear someone shout my dead name in public and I'd still turn my head, So, that took a bit, but now I don't. When I'm in public and I hear someone shout my dead name to someone else, I don't react, which is good because it doesn't really feel like me anymore. How are you so pretty? Thank you, Uzuki. I appreciate that. Have you done any research on how hypermobility affects trans voice? I haven't. That'd be great. I would love to explore some of that for sure. How does watching the videos themselves factor into what you say in that practice video? Your videos are often much longer than 5 minutes. Yeah, my videos are longer than 5 minutes because I want them to impact a scope of the audience, a large scope of the audience. I also tend to just think more long form about stuff, and I think for me, I personally prefer long form content. I know that the internet seems to prefer short term content, and as a content creator, that's just kind of a problem for me because I like long form stuff. Definitely pause though. That's fine. Yeah. I mean, I don't think of, okay, I want to say this too. Don't think of watching my videos as practice, you know? That's not what practice is. I mean, that's learning, that's engaging with the material, but practice is you physically and actively doing something with your voice, whether it's for a couple seconds or not. So if you watch a 30-minute video that I make, that doesn't count as 30 minutes of practice, my dear. I'm sorry. You need to make vocalization. Videos, information, text, guides, none of that teaches you how to control your voice. It provides a supportive framework for you to hopefully take actions with your voice to take positive steps forward, right? So use those as a framework, as a guide, as a model to then work your own actions out from. But taking your own action and making your own action is so important and so crucial. Nick Patera, yes, thank you. That's what I was talking about. Amber, welcome. Sia, did you study sound before you transitioned or after? You're amazing. I studied sound before for about a decade. I have a degree in music theory, music composition. I've been a composer pretty much since I was a teenager. I worked as a composer professionally before I got into anything relating to transition or voice modification. Actually, this came up in my last live stream, but if you've ever heard of the game Scrap Mechanic, I did the soundtrack for that game, for example. I used to compose a lot of different pieces for different ensembles. So I would do composition commissions, I would teach music theory, I would teach music composition, I would teach ear training, I would teach sound design, production, mixing, mastering. I just used to teach and interact and do a bunch of sound. I used to be in a progressive metal band that toured around and did that stuff. I also have a solo project. So yeah, I've always been into sound, always been obsessed with music and obsessed with music theory and timbre in particular. My earliest compositions and my first album, you can really think of it as like all harmony and texture, very little melody. You know, so it was very rhythm dominated, harmony dominated, and timbre and sound design dominated. And then it really took me several years after that to develop a sense for melody and a sense for more form. I was very much like texture, sound design first, like timbre first, orchestration first. Then I got really into harmony. Then I got really into rhythm. Then I got really into form. And then lastly, I studied melody. And so, yeah, I've studied a lot of different things with sound. I've always loved acoustics. It's always been something that's really fascinated me and something that really stimulates me and drives me towards what I'm doing. This whole community has been fantastic. Do you have any tips for the right way to take a singing focused approach? Ooh, that's such a big question. In general, it would require you to understand some prerequisite information that I feel in order for me to espouse right now would take a while. But like if you watch that last live stream with Clover and I, we talked a lot about fullness. I think that a singing first approach to feminization is possible. I think it's viable and doable. But I think it's going to require you to be aware of a couple things first. In particular, you're going to want to be aware of how vocal weight and pitch interact. You're going to want to be aware of how weight and resonance interact to create auditory fullness. And then you're really going to want to have very discrete control over resonance. The problem is you don't really learn very good control of resonance when you just sing. So even if you're doing a singing first approach, you're really going to want to like master and try to tackle your resonance and take care of that in a discrete way, because it's really going to form like the kind of key layer that you're building off of. And you can definitely learn and practice resonance through singing. That's doable. But I do think that will tend to be just a little more challenging given the resources that exist now. But I think in the future, I don't think it has to be like a harder approach. But that's a tough question. I could honestly talk about that all day long, and I could probably write in a book about that. But we're on a stream, so I'll kind of go past that one for now. Oh gosh, there's so much stuff. Oh, I'm gonna scroll down. If you've asked a super important question, I'm so far behind. I'm like literally like minutes behind. So let me just scroll down here and catch up. Damn, Scrap Mechanic. Whoa, yeah. Hello Z, you made it so easy for me to change your voice. Let's the MB. I love that. That's really so awesome. Wait, you did the music for Scrap Mechanic? Yes, I did. That's my OST. Let's see here. Inspiration. I'm so glad to hear that, TJ. As a musician, I can seriously say Ziana is a music genius. Seriously, thank you. That's a very high honor. I really appreciate that. I love music very much. Any advice for those in the middle stage that is an island of self-doubt? Yeah, that's a tough one. Do you mean the in-between stage for transition or for voice? I actually feel like that can be interpreted several ways, so I'll skip past that for now and hopefully see it later. But it depends. If you're like in the middle stages of transition, there's different tips I have for you. If you're thinking about just voice stuff, different tips I have for you. Yes, and thank you all for liking this as well. I really appreciate that. It helps the algorithm, disseminate this after the stream and stuff. This stream will stay up. Is there a maximum brightness you can achieve with your throat? Yeah, actually. For me, it averages around like, yeah. So if I have to give a quantifiable numerical value, about 1500 hertz R1 on the vowel A is where most people are going to peak at with basic techniques. With some extension techniques, you can get a little further than that, but you don't need to. There's no need to get that far. Think about it this way. If resonance we describe as size, every vowel that you produce has the ability to have like a 0% to 100% size gradient. Let's say the biggest you can make the vowel with it still sounding like the vowel, and the smallest you can. So for instance, the biggest I can make is this. Right? And the smallest I can make it, let's say that's 0 to 100%. I could probably go smaller if I really wanted to push it and get heavier, but I wanted to keep my voice like pleasant. So let's say that forms like 0 to 100%. Us, up, So really, the highest resonance you can get is going to be slightly numerically different for each vowel. So we want to think about it more on a meta level for that 0 to 100% size space that we can control through. And for most people, the easiest way to measure that's like an A vowel. With an E vowel, if I go from 0 to 100%, it'll sound like this. E, 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 tree. That's like a 430 hertz R1E, which is really quite high, much higher than the cis feminine average. And so there is typically a ceiling point that you'll get with resonance. It's hard to tell you what that's going to be though, unless you speak in the same language I am. So for instance, if you're on the A vowel, about 1400 to 1500 hertz with your first resonance is going to be the peak of that. If you're on the E vowel, typically around 400 to 440 hertz is going to be the peak of that. It's just going to depend on what vowel you're doing if you want a quantifiable measurement, but it should sound, maximally small. So I hope that helps you. Gosh, there's just so much stuff. Thank you, Zestoner. I appreciate that. Let's see. Kate, thanks so much. Do you think software could be developed that analyzes subtleties and waveforms to assist with voice memorization? Some of that already exists. Yeah, if I had the ability to do digital signal processing coding and UI coding, I would make a voice app that I know the knowledge, I have the knowledge I need in order to make something like that effective. However, there's always going to be limitations to that, and no tool will ever be a replacement for carefully listening and experimenting, right? That's very important. I've done streams before where I've showed people different resonance tracking applications and different ways to track pitch and stuff, but all of those are supplementary. They are supportive elements that make it easier for us to control our voice, or not to control, but to interpret. They make it easier for us to interpret our voice, but there is no replacement for listening critically and interacting in a very aware way with your voice. And that's true with music, right? There's no software that will teach you how to play music the way you want. You just have to be very careful and critical and think about what you're looking for. Same thing. Do you have any advice for someone trying to feminize a sort of raspy voice, supposedly due to a bit of scarring for unknown reasons? Yeah, I would say embrace the raspiness. If you have scarring or asymmetry, or you have some physiological condition with the vocal folds that stops them from forming a symmetric closure all the way, you're pretty much just going to have some natural amount of raspiness or added air or air leak naturally. Now, I do believe that for you in your case, you would be able to gain greater control of that. Like, I think that you probably could clean your voice up further than where it is now. And so part of voice feminization when you're experimenting with it should be trying to clear up and clean up the voice a little bit, but also you should expect that maybe there might be a limit to how hyper clean you can go, and that's totally fine, because sounding raspy is not really a masculine or feminine trait. Like, you know, like, I mean, I can still sound like feminine or whatever, like even if I'm kind of raspy, or even if I have like more like air leak or something like that. So if you kind of have like a voice that has, if you have a voice that's naturally more noisy because of your physiology, you know, it shouldn't really stop you from achieving what you want in feminization. I would definitely recommend spending some time working on getting cleaner and seeing if it's possible to clean your voice up, and seeing maybe where the peak threshold of cleanliness is that you could get out of your voice. But generally speaking, the same principles apply to a voice that's raspy or not raspy in feminization. Oh gosh, there's just so many wonderful comments here. Let's see here. Just scrolling. We hear your chair in the mic. My chair's not making sound. Oh, I guess it is a little bit. Okay, a little bit. Okay. Hi Clem, welcome from Scotland. Do you know if there's any chance to lose an accent? Yes, there is, but if we're properly modifying resonance, there shouldn't be. And that's because resonance needs to be based on each individual's voice, right? So I was talking earlier about vowel size. So let's say you have a particular sound that's very characteristic of your accent. You should, I think what you're actually hearing is my sustain pedal on my piano that was squeaking. So what you should try to do is you should try to learn to make larger and smaller the vowels that are in your accent. So let's create a new vowel. I don't know what this vowel is, but let's say we say let's say that's a vowel for some reason that's in your language. You would try to you would try to make it bigger and smaller, but within the context of who you are as a speaker and what qualities you're working with. You know, in my videos, I obviously am doing Americanized English vowels because I'm an American English speaker, but you know, it's all about based on context for each individual, right? So, think about large versus small with your vowels. I'm going to be making a video about this soon, about my current resonance model I'm working with. So be on the lookout for that, and hopefully it can help you. But, you know, I've talked before in my videos about this idea that I've discussed and came up with vowel scaling. And if you're scaling your vowels, you shouldn't lose your accent, but you should be able to make them bigger and smaller. So, yeah. Oh, great, Winter. I'm glad you re-asked. Gonna ask again. Hope that's cool. Tips for getting over morning voice quicker. Voice training is going great, but mornings suck. Yeah, mornings suck for everyone who does voice. No matter if you're cis feminine, cis masculine, trans feminine, doesn't really matter. When you wake up in the morning, you wake up with typically more swelling, what we call edema in the vocal folds, and they're just kind of colder, so they're not as ready to move. Your muscles aren't warmed up. There's not blood flowing into the tissue, and typically mucus can build up and accrue there overnight. So if you're waking up in the morning and you feel you don't have the sound you want, well, you'll need to warm your voice up. And there's different ways to warm up. You know, I personally like to, when I wake up in the morning, I don't make any sound for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I find that if I vocalize straight out of bed, I typically get some residual swelling that kind of lasts a couple hours. It's not significant, but since I'm very in touch with my own voice, I do notice that if I'm speaking straight out of bed, feels a bit more swollen later on. So I try to just rest my voice for about 10 or 15 minutes. In that time, I hydrate, slam water, getting everything all lubed up and ready to go. Of course, when you drink water, it's not going to hit your vocal folds for probably 15 to 45 minutes because, well, when you swallow, it doesn't go over your vocal folds. It goes behind your vocal folds into your esophagus. So, you know, I like to get my hydration started right away. And then what I'll typically do are little lip trills or humming with an M sound. And I just really try to get the vocal folds to move. Now, if you're in a situation where you don't feel safe or comfortable, or you're very dysphoric, maybe this won't work for you. But when I wake up in the morning, I like to go as low as possible. I sing my lowest pitches quite aggressively, because I find that the lower I go in the morning, the faster I warm up, because we're really getting the whole vibration of the tissue to happen. I typically go a little heavier with lip trills, a little heavier with an M sound, and that allows more of the tissue to move as soon as possible in the day, which allows me to warm up faster. So I like to do that, but really what you're saying is you don't feel you have an adequate vocal warm up, and there's lots of ways and resources on the internet you could look into. If you're a member of my Patreon community, I believe I've done an entire workshop, probably like an hour and a half, on warming up the voice and talking about all the different ways that you can do that. So that would be something you might want to explore in that case. I'll have to make a video on warm-ups at some point. I actually feel like I finally broke my mental block to making content on YouTube. And that's why I'm here streaming right now. So I filmed a great video tonight, and I think I finally figured out the problem I had in my process. So hopefully looking forward to a lot of content coming soon. Keo, welcome. Charlotte Evelyn, getting FFS Friday. That's so exciting. Congrats. Keo, hi. I just want to say I love your videos and they're wonderful learning steps. I'm so glad to hear that. And it's great to have you here. Can you help me? My voice is too beautiful and I'm trying to make it worse. I fit in. That's really rude. Gross. That's a mean comment. I think I'm going to put you in timeout for that one. That's mean. Okay. Let's see here. There we go. Do you have any advice on dealing with anxiety relating to voice training? I'm so grateful for your lessons, but every time I try, I get so anxious. I've talked about this in past live streams before, but the thing that helped me get through my anxiety was to kind of set a lower bar for myself. You know, you should feel successful whenever you make any sound whatsoever, even if it's not even close to your target. I also found it particularly helpful in my process to... Oh, I know what you're hearing. You're not hearing my chair. You're hearing me move back and forth, which is pulling my headphones across my mic cable. There we go. So yeah, I typically find it helpful to kind of disassociate my identity from my voice altogether and just think of voice as voice. You know, I'm simply moving around some little meat tubes and meat flaps, and that helps it become more of a silly thing for me, something that's less serious or significant. It's not making a grand statement about who I am or anything. It's just me trying to learn how to control my voice. Those were things that really helped me early in the process, and maybe they'll help you, maybe they won't, but definitely give yourself some self-love. You know, if you do any action whatsoever, that's very helpful and very productive for you, even if it's not what you wanted to do per se. Oh gosh, everyone. Let's see here. Oh, and let's see. Mandarin. Okay, snaps. In your opinion, how much can you actually choose your own voice? For example, if you have an actress you like the sound of, is it realistic to learn to speak like they do? Yeah. I'm a pretty firm believer in you can pretty much get whatever sound you want. I mean, there's obviously going to be some cases where things are harder or easier for you based on your physiology, but generally speaking, you can pretty much get whatever you want with your voice. And so, yeah, you can definitely choose what you want. Now, here's another thing. The more specific you choose your voice to be, the harder it will be to normalize, because you're going to have more elements that you're thinking about trying to normalize, right? Like if your goal is just like, oh, I want to sound quote unquote unmistakably feminine, right? Like it's a little easier because, you know, even if there's other little stylistic elements or dialectic elements about your voice or idiolectic elements about your voice that you don't necessarily like, you can still sound feminine pretty easily in that way, right? So the more specific you get with your voice, the more targeted it becomes, the more micro behaviors you will have to include in what you're doing. So like if you wanted to copy an actress's voice, totally possible. People who can do great accents prove that, right? They can literally sound like other people. I can do that sometimes, but I'm not going to try to whip out some accents right now that I haven't practiced, but it's totally possible. But the reason why it's harder is because there are so many little micro behaviors, which are very subtle, that are harder to pick up on than the more coarse, broad level stuff. But it is definitely possible. Absolutely. And I've worked with students before who have very discrete goals about what they want, and I guide them to those goals and they achieve and succeed at what they want. So definitely possible. Oh my gosh, CTP, Portraits of Tracy. I love your name. You love my music so freaking much. I love your name so much. Rest in peace, Jocko. Let's see here. Does language have anything to do I feel like when I speak English, I sound different from Spanish. Definitely does. Yeah. There's going to be different dialectic movements throughout that. There's going to be, which then creates slightly different resonance patterns and behaviors. There's going to be different pitch contours that are typically used across culturally. And that's why it's really important to listen very carefully to the qualities you want. So if you're a German speaker and you're learning from my videos, but you want to feminize your voice in German equally to what you're doing in English, make a playlist of German feminine speakers you like the sound of and really soak your ears in those sounds so you can pick up on those in-culture emic qualities that really make it what it is in that particular culture. Yeah. Oh gosh. Is there a breaking point in pitch? Yeah, there tends to be. Yeah, absolutely. There's ways to cheat and extend past that in different ways. Typically, like my hard breaking point for pitch, if I don't start belting, is like a D5, and then I can start to belt and I can take that all the way up to like a B5, maybe a little bit even higher than that if I'm really on with my belts that day. There is a discrete breaking point for most people in pitch. Now, that point is going to be dynamic. So if you're very heavy, you're probably going to break sooner unless you're belting. If you're very light, you'll probably break a little later, but then you'll break sooner than if you belted. So it's going to change depending on what you're doing, but there are some fairly discrete points, but they do kind of move around based on what actions you do. If you feel like you've been working on raising your pitch and you keep hitting a pitch ceiling that you can't get across, that doesn't mean that's your ceiling though. It's very difficult to say for sure if what you're experiencing is your ceiling or not. Okay. So, if you've been working for years and you're like, good at voice and stuff, and you still feel like you have a fairly consistent breaking point, that's probably going to indicate where you're getting diminishing returns, and you probably could continue to raise that, but it's going to become increasingly harder and you're going to get increasingly less growth for more time investment. So that's where I've hit with my voice is like, I think I could continue to get my M1 higher past D5, but I don't even know if it's worth the amount of time investment it would take to do that because it's very diminishing returns. Whereas when I first started really working on feminizing my voice, the highest notes I could hit were like a G4 in my modal voice, like without belting. And I was able to very quickly start to find, okay, I can do G sharp 5 or G sharp 4, I can do A4, I can do B flat 4. And I started to find that I was able to access those spaces, but over time I have received diminishing returns. I have a fried voice. Oh gosh. Oh, and then you talked about it on the last stream. I'm so glad that gave you some hope there. Okay, there's so many things. Hey, I wanted to ask about those headphones. They look like DT770s. I'm thinking about getting them. I was wondering what you think of them. I think DT770s are some of the best headphones for value, period. I think it's unbelievable. I think what DT770s offer is unbelievable. I think you basically have two sorts of tiers for affordable headphones for entry costs. The Audio-Technica ATH M50s, which are lower cost, like 120-ish, I think is what they were last time I looked. You can get them for like 120 used or something, and they're a huge step up of quality of anything you'll pay like in the similar ballpark price. And then the DT770s are incredible, and they're incredible for their money. So they're an incredible value deal. I mean, obviously there's going to be some headphones that are better quality, let's say more neutral or perhaps higher fidelity, but they're going to cost way more. So I feel like the DT770s deliver in this incredible place of value. And I mean, that's why you see DT770s like on everyone. In every recording studio has a DT770, somewhere in the mix. I've got 2 pairs of them. I gave my brother 1 pair. The pair I gave my brother has worked for over 12 years, and they still sound as good, if not better, than the day I got them. I've had these ones for 4 years. I've dropped them. I've abused them. I've put them in my backpack. Like, I took them my old pair I took with me everywhere. I took them on tour. I took them to different shows. I took them to when I was going to college and studying music composition. I'd take them out between every class, and they never failed. However, if you do get the DT770s, be aware. There can be this weird glitch where it sounds like your speaker cone is like broken or distorted. Sometimes what happens is a piece of hair makes its way inside the foam padding and rests on the speaker, and it can make your speaker rattle. I thought my DT770s were broke until I took them apart, and oh, sure enough, there was a little piece of hair there. So I plucked the hair out, and it allowed the speaker cone to vibrate more freely, and they sounded as great as they ever did. So that's the only problem I've ever had with them. Oh gosh, hate the mucus? Yes, I hate the mucus too. I can see your tongue twist based on your pitch. Is it related to your pitch? No, but remember, like I said, when we move our pitch around, if we want to preserve the same kind of fullness or tone, we will need to modify our resonance as well. So let's say I'm singing higher, you might find that my tongue is changing positions because it's supporting my vocal tract in changing my resonance so that I can continue to raise my pitch with the same appropriate tone. So, but no, your pitch doesn't have like a direct result on, or excuse me, your tongue doesn't have like a direct connection to pitch, although some could argue that since your tongue is connected to the hyoid bone, and your hyoid bone is actually the suspension point for your larynx, you could maybe argue your tongue has something to do with pitch, but at this point, we're getting very pedantic and kind of not really like grounding ourselves in like discrete reality very much. Okay, let's see here. Let's see here. There's so many wonderful questions. Let's catch up. Any advice for psychological barrier? We've got a super chat. Let me scroll and catch that. Emily H, there's an AI that will replicate a voice based on 10 seconds of audio. Takes a few tries though. Can't drop the link here, but I'll drop it in regular chat. Yes, definitely do that. That sounds really fun to play with. I think some of the really cool like deep fake voice stuff is like crazy that's starting to come out. Like I've seen some like I've seen some Twitch streams where it's like some of the text to speech, like donations, like start to sound like actual people. It's really, really crazy stuff. So really love that. Mimicking sound is a way to train the muscle towards a certain goal. Absolutely. It's actually the most reliable way to get our muscles to move how we want them to, because we don't know how to control our muscles by themselves. I mean, we're talking about tiny little muscles inside the vocal tract, right? Like we don't know how to control those. So we use sound, and that guides us to the right kind of quality. Okay. HRT does nothing to feminize your voice. You need voice training. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's like some very subtle things that HRT will do to your voice, but functionally we can say it doesn't do anything. But it does impact the way the tissues sort of take on nutrients and repair themselves and do other things. It's very subtle though. There is some research that shows that. Let's see here. No, I haven't heard of that singer. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, very wonderful. Chat's moving so fast I can barely keep up with it. With voice feminization, yes, absolutely. Trans women can definitely sing feminine musical theater parts. Absolutely. You say you haven't seen a couple examples. One place you might be able to go looking, just off the top of my head, actually there's a lot of drag queen performers. Obviously, trans women aren't drag queens, so in case you're like a cis person and you're here and you don't know that, they're not the same thing. But there are a lot of drag queen performers who do that kind of like pop feminine singing, and they actually sound really good, and many of them can sound like cis-passing female voices. So definitely listen to those. I think I've seen some on The Voice. I know there's some on TikTok, whatever, so definitely check that out. So is a trachea shave a bad thing for voice feminization most times, or is it in some cases you've seen? What could it damage? I made an entire video on that a while ago, and I also opened up a survey. Just so you know, the tracheal shave survey, I can give a little bit of preliminary information. 102 people have submitted responses based on their experiences with tracheal shave. 30% have experienced some degree of long-term vocal impairment. So if you want a tracheal shave, be aware of that, okay? It is definitely a real risk. I still think the rate of that is somewhat inflated based on the people who would watch my YouTube channel and the respondents that might feel compelled to answer that survey. But I mean, even if it is a little inflated, the fact that 30% out of 102 people who filled this survey out experienced some discrete amount of vocal impairment long-term following a tracheal shave is kind of sus. Now, that there was also an interesting number that came back from that research that I've been conducting, which indicates that 36% of people during their consultation and discussions with a surgeon over tracheal shave, 0 long-term risk was mentioned at all. Another third of that felt they were underinformed of the vocal risks that can occur from a tracheal shave, and the other third felt like they were adequately informed. The kinds of vocal injuries that can occur, anterior commissure detachment, you can get subcutaneous tracheal adhesion. It just depends. So Yeah, the scariest one is that commissure detachment, which basically compromises the tension that the vocal folds can generate on their own. And we really need to try to not let that happen. There does seem to be a lower risk associated with tracheal shave if you go to an otolaryngologist as opposed to a craniofacial maxillary facial surgeon who does like general FFS. I do notice that people who are voice doctors, otolaryngologists, they tend to botch that surgery a little less. Let's see here. If I get voice surgery, will that affect my singing voice in a negative way? I'm going to say yeah, to be honest with you. I can't really imagine any kind of VFS that doesn't make singing different. Now, in a negative way, hard to say. I mean, it's going to limit your range. When you think about VFS, nothing in VFS is additive. It doesn't add anything to your voice. It only removes things that exist. So you're always going to end up with a smaller range than you started with. You're never going to end up with a purer voice than you started with. At worst, you'll end up with the same amount of purity you had before or more noisiness. You will never end up with a wider vocal range from VFS, only a narrower vocal range. And so, yeah. Now, that's not to scare anyone. I'm very pro body autonomy. If you want VFS or you want tracheal shave, please get those. You know, it's your body, it's your choice, it's your decision. And if you feel the dysphoria pay off, if you feel the benefit from the surgery, it's kind of the dysphoria outweighs the benefits from the surgery alleviating dysphoria outweighs, the potential risks. By all means, it sounds like you'd be a great candidate for it. Did I get a tracheal shave? No, I didn't. You can see it. It's just when I talk, since I am modifying my vocal tract, it hides my larynx. See? When I'm talking, you can't really see it, but when I stop and I drop everything, you can see it a lot more. So no, I have not had a tracheal shave. Okay. Yeah, okay, let's see here. Oh my god, I watched your video about hearing my voice with less weight made me so happy. That's how I realized I was trans. Oh, that's so wonderful. Okay, welcome to our little community here. That's sus as F. Agreed. Good night, Janet Black. Lovely having you here. I would say avoid tracheal shave and know you've been taught to modulate your voice and trust you can. I mean, once again, it comes down to body autonomy, right? Like, I would definitely say avoid it if you're worried about those risks, but otherwise, let it go. Mensana keeps saying Charlie Zushin is a cis male, but he can sing soprano like Sarah Brightman. So yeah, if anyone wants to hear examples of singing, that sounds like a cool example. I haven't heard that singer, but that's great. Okay, wonderful. Let's see here. Your channel doesn't give examples of training exercises. That's not true. I've even posted entire documents that have audio examples and training exercises. In my recent beginner video, there's literally 4 discrete exercises laid out. In my previous residence video, at least one from like a year ago, there's literally 4 exercises laid out along with audio files, and they're listed on a document for you. In my falsehood video, there are numerous exercises listed. I create a lot of exercises and I share a lot of exercises. One of the things that you might want to be aware of is that it's not about exercises. We don't just want you to do one thing over and over, like do this exercise 10 times a day and you get a fem voice. It doesn't work that way. Exercises are not like that in voice. Exercises are exploratory actions that you take to provide a framework for action. That's what their role is. But ultimately, you learn how to do voice by taking action. I've published dozens, hundreds of exercises, and many of them are available on this channel, and many of them are time-stamped at certain points in the video. So I would say maybe look a little harder. Let's see here. I have success going deep later on. I think not thinking my voice being general at all. Can you really change your voice? Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Can you get a tracheal unshave? No, you can't. However, if you have anterior commissure detachment, I believe Dr. James Thomas has found some way to correct that. It's actually by getting regular VFS. So if you end up with a tracheal shave that impacts your voice, there does seem to be like maybe you can get VFS and it can help a little bit. If you get the subcutaneous tracheal adhesion problem, you can resolve that fairly easily. So, yep. Dead name account, Raven here. You've helped me so much. You're a gift to the trans community. Thank you so much for that super chat. I'm so glad I was able to help you, and I'm glad I read your comment so I didn't dead name you. It's wonderful to have you here. Thank you for that statement. My apologies for the long-winded explanation. Probably got buried. Does it hurt if you talk too much? No, 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 no. I talk like 10 hours a day, you know? I teach like anywhere between like 4 to 8 hours of voice lessons a day. And then I typically also record music and talk to people and socialize. So should not hurt. No. In fact, while everyone's listening, if you're getting started with voice feminization, being comfortable is not compromisable. Okay? Every time you take actions, you need to be strategically lazy. You need to be comfortable. You know? It needs to be easy for you. If you're feeling uncomfortable when you're doing things in voice feminization, that's not right. You shouldn't feel that, you know? Sometimes you may feel a weird sensation, or it may be something new, or, you know, it can be like that. But if you're feeling something that's uncomfortable, or you're experiencing pain when you are using your voice, you are doing something wrong. A painful voice is an unsustainable voice. And at no point in time do we ever want to compromise our vocal health or our vocal function in the pursuit of feminization or timbre modification. Oh, scrolling down and catching up because I'm always falling behind forever. Let's see here. Catch you later. I'm about to go catch VCAT's long-awaited meeting. Enjoy that. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day. A lot of vocal practice and training is your timbre. Yeah, absolutely. Timbre is really such a core part of these things. The deep voice runs in the eye breaker. These classes are good. Thanks. Only exercising voice is easy as regular exercise. Is there a way to make your snoring, sneezing sound more feminine? Yeah, definitely. My sneezing is very feminine now, and it's not because I trained it, but it's because as my voice became normalized, my reflexive behaviors changed as well. You can practice them. I talked about that on a previous stream, so I probably won't go in depth on it today. But yeah, absolutely. If you're talking about your reflexive sounds, it can be helpful to fake those. Not fake them when they're happening, but in the practice room, fake them and try to sculpt the sound more like what you want, and they can help you when you're about to actually have that experience to get what you want instead of the thing you don't want. Yeah, those things do change when you reflexively, or when your voice normalizes to a different level. I know that when I'm sleeping, I sleep talk in my voice I'm using right now. Numerous partners have told me that and stuff, so that's cool. It just depends, right? Because your voice isn't a product of your physiology, your voice is a product of your behavior, and if your behavior becomes normalized around something else, that's going to be what you do in your sleep. That's going to be what you do around the other sounds. So yeah, great. Now, snoring. Does anybody snore femininely? Is that even a thing? I feel like the partners I've been with who are cis feminine and the partners I've been with cis who are masculine, they kind of snore the same. You know, I mean, there's like a slight timbre difference, but I don't really think of snores as like super gendered. I mean, I guess they kind of are a little bit, but that's just an interesting thought. I've never really considered snoring that much. I know I snore, and I don't think my snores are masculine, or at least no one's told me that, and I've definitely inquired with many of my partners, do I sound masculine when I'm sleeping? So I don't know, very interesting. What was my starting pitch? My pitch average was around like 130, 140 when I first got started. A little higher than the average population for people who have experienced testosterone, but I would also regularly go to like 120, 115. So let's see here. Going to bed. It was lovely having you here. Take care. Oh my god, everyone says no, laughing my ass off. Yeah, no one sounds like a cute Disney princess when they snore. You know, it's not really like a thing, you know? Let's see. Maybe I'll get my Disney princess snore and I'll unveil it. See, even if you like try to, it just still sounds like you're sucking in air and it's popping your vocal tract around. Let's see here. Wonderful. Strategically lazy is a term I'm going to use for the rest of my life. I'll cite Clover on that. That's definitely a Cloverism that I've copped and put into my vocabulary. So shout out to Clover, of course, who, by the way, Clover is my kindred flame, not in a romantic way, but in an intellectual way. I love working with Clover. I love talking to Clover about voice. I just feel we have a very symbiotic relationship, and we're always pushing each other to get better and learn and create new things and stuff like that. Let's see here. Gosh, there's so many different things. What do you do in 8 hours worth of voice using? Teach most of it, you know, teach people model voice things. Then I usually will talk to friends or whatever socially, and then I'll record music. So I'll sing, or tonight I probably should record some voice samples for a certain document I've been working on. So that will probably take another 45 minutes or so. At this point today, I've been pretty much talking nonstop since I woke up. I woke up at 2 p.m. today, kind of a late day for me. And then I taught from 4 to 6:30. It was a light teaching day because it's a Saturday. I was making up some of the students from October. Then after that, I just talked to some of my friends, and I did my makeup, and I talked to my friend or my partner, and then recorded. So I was talking to a camera for about an hour, and then I got on here. So yeah. What does hormones do, if anything? I kind of mentioned this a little bit ago, not really that much for voice, but it can change some of the ways the tissues reuptake, and it can change susceptibility to vocal injury. It can change the way hydration works. Different hormone levels can impact that, just like we can see with cis women as they're moving through their menstrual cycle. We can see different sort of things occur in the vocal folds. It's not a lot, and it's not significant enough to where we can run around and say HRT feminizes your voice. It doesn't really do that, but it does have an influence over the way the tissues repair themselves, the way the tissues take on hydration, and mostly things like that. Let's see here. Thanks for all your work in helping us. I've been following for a while now. I'm hoping I can find motivation and can finally start improving your voice. I hope you can too. I'll be thinking of you, okay? Yeah, I think that's a great point there, Thriving in Amber. I want to start talking. There we go. You say that comfort is non-negotiable. Could it be compared to stretching, where you can extend your comfort range through careful practice, and discomfort's a sign of bad technique? Yeah, definitely. Now, of course, there's been times in the past where I've made my voice uncomfortable for little moments, but like if I know I'm doing something that's like, okay, I'm kind of pushing my voice right now, that's okay. You know, I don't recommend beginners do that, because beginners don't know where, you know, doing an experiment that's rather extreme, where that ends and begins with proper practice, you know? So for beginners, no discomfort. If you're advanced or expert or whatever, like, yeah, you know, sometimes I do some things with my voice I shouldn't, just because I want to test things out, you know? Like, it's really not comfortable for me physically to go low anymore. Like when I do this, like this, like isn't like super comfortable. Like I'm getting signals from my body that tell me that if I did this for a while, I would like be very strained and very uncomfortable, but I'll still do it for little moments, because, you know, it's fun. So, but for general people, nah, don't do that. Okay. Let's see here. Wonderful. Okay. Scrolling, I'm going to skip some and go back down to the catch up. Love your outfit. Hope you can rock something like that soon. Thank you. I actually found this top. I've never even worn this top before. I found it in my room, and I was like, oh my God, it's so cute. So I'm glad it fits. Let's see. I just joined. So sorry. Any tips while talking while wearing masks? That actually hasn't been asked. So you say you struggle with both pitch and resonance with a mask. A mask shouldn't affect the way that you are doing resonance internally. It'll definitely affect the timbre of your voice, because it acts like a low pass filter. But it shouldn't change what you're doing in your vocal tract to feminize your voice. Yeah, if you have trouble getting the sound you want with your mask on, well, kind of everybody does, right? I mean, how many times have you seen someone on TV, regardless if they're cis or trans, wear a mask and they're talking and people are like, can't hear you, what'd you say? And they like pull their mask down, right? But I would recommend, if you find that's a persistent problem for you and it's intersecting with voice feminization in a negative way, you should practice your voice with your mask on. Yeah. Go into the lab with those conditions present and see how it changes what you're doing, and see if you can create the sounds you want with the mask on. So it'll be easier for you to do that when you're out of the practice room. I'm going to drink some water. I'm going to just read chat. So, you know, if you ask questions now, they'll probably get skipped. Just reading chat. I hope everyone's doing. How's everyone doing tonight? Is everyone enjoying the stream so far? Zessass, I'll answer this one just because it's easy to answer. You can't do your lower voice anymore. Is that intentional or just behavior? It's not intentional. I just can't do my voice anymore. Yeah. When did you lose this? Well, I didn't notice it over time. I committed to a feminine voice, and I stayed with that voice for years. And then when I tried to go back and be lower later on, I couldn't. So It's a lot of people ask me about this. I've seen people say Z doesn't go low because it makes her dysphoric, or, she avoids it because, no, I'm not dysphoric about my low voice anymore. I don't have any voice dysphoria anymore. I wish I could go lower. I even played that clip earlier when I was sick where I went super low. So no, I'm not intentionally not going low. It has nothing to do with that. It's just I can't produce that low end anymore. If I wake up in the morning and I'm swollen, I can go lower than I'm going now, but after I've warmed my voice up and I'm talking and just my life is going on, I can't go that low anymore. So it is not intentional. It's just the way that my instrument and behavior has adapted because I have fully normalized this kind of voice. A lot of people in voice feminization stuff, they don't fully normalize ever. I mean, a lot of people do, but there's some people who don't, and they're on this like periphery where it's like they always have a little bit of brain power going into what they're doing when they're feminizing their voice. That's not really the case for me anymore. It just is kind of the way I sound. Now, this voice is a little more feminine than I use on a day-to-day, simply because I'm like doing a live stream and I'm like talking to people and I'm on YouTube, right? It's like a customer service voice. It's not like I'm intentionally trying to sound maybe a little more feminine than average, but it's just the way I'm communicating, It's about what you're trying to communicate and how you feel, and that's going to change the way you sound. So
if I try to go as low,
that's literally me trying to push my voice lower. I just can't do it right now. It's very frustrating, honestly. It's not something I love. It's cool that it happened, but it's frustrating that it happened. And whenever I do have days where I can go lower, because maybe I have some swelling or I'm not warmed up, I record it and I capture it and I keep it because I don't want to, lose it. I've also been practicing regaining my masculine voice for the last 9 months, almost a year probably, and it's helped in some cases, but it's been really challenging. Thank you so much, Winky Face, for the super chat. I really appreciate that. It really means a lot. And yes, stay hydrated, everyone. I forgot to drink because I answered a question before that. You know what's crazy? I thought this was going to be the least amount of viewers I ever have on a stream, but it's actually the most, and that's great because I like to stream around these hours, and I thought that if I stream around these hours, nobody shows up, but I'm learning that it's actually the opposite. So that's pretty cool. If these hours are good to stream... Oh, Willow says everyone needs to hit like and subscribe. I agree. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're new here. I think it's crazy that some people... this gets recommended to people who aren't subscribed to me, but definitely subscribe. Don't forget to like this. It helps a lot. Love your setup. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Just found this channel. I've been, it's been helpful, kind of helpful, though I'm not sure I'm doing just right or wrong yet. For sure, it'll take some time for you to gain some of that awareness. You gave me some advice on practicing this week, and it really helped me make progress. Thank you. I'm so thankful and grateful that I was able to help you. Enjoying it a lot. It's my first time watching your stream. Wonderful. Thank you for being here. That's awesome to have you here for the first time. Wonderful. Good. Bad words. Catching up. Oh, it just jumped all the way to the bottom. Sorry, people. I did things. I must skip things. If you had the opportunity to get substantial funding and resources to research something, what would you choose? Kind of what I'm researching already. Actually, just so you all know, I've got 2 publications happening. There's one publication I've been working on with a group of colleagues that I'm really excited about. And then there's one publication I've been working on by myself, which will be published as a part of a chapter in a otolaryngology gender affirming manual, which will be available on PubMed. I'll save the details for the other one just because it's other people and I don't necessarily know how much I can talk about that, but there's actually research I'm already doing. I've also started that tracheal shave research survey that's done really well. So honestly, I don't think if I had a bunch of funding, it would change how I research very much. I'm funded by the trans community right now, and they fund me quite generously, and so that allows me to kind of do those things anyways. Now, if I had like a buku amount of money and I could do whatever I wanted, I would do tons of research involving MRI studies, and I would really map out resonance in a very, very clear way. A lot of what I'm publishing and researching right now is really the codification of many of my models and many of the things that I've developed and came up with, particularly the way that vowel size and vowel scaling works, which is something that I personally think is very important and, is not present at all in modern phonetics and not present at all in the way that SLPs talk about this or the way that other voice people talk about voice modification in a gendered sense. And I think that vowel scale and vowel size is probably like one of the most important things. I also want to work with Clover on publishing and really codifying our model of vocal auditory fullness. It's very important, very valuable, and it is a novel thing as well. I also really want to codify my onset model. My onset model is something I worked on with Clover over the course of several months, and I'm really, really proud of it. I haven't gotten to talk about it at all on this YouTube channel, but it's a very, very thorough onset model. I'm very, very proud of it. And I think it's better than the other onset models I've seen in different voice schools. So yeah, I'm working on a textbook, and it's actually coming along pretty good, honestly. So there's that aspect, working on a textbook, working on that publication with the clinic otolaryngological gender affirming manual stuff, working on that, really excited about that. That will allow me to codify my whole approach, model, and observations, boom, straight in the literature. You can Google it, find it on PubMed. And then the other paper is really, really exciting stuff, very much a codification, working on that with several people in the field, really looking forward to that. And then I would also, my tracheal shave survey, eventually I'll publish that in some format or another, but I'll probably do that with a video first. So lots of different research already happening. Super chat that I missed here, let me get to that. Hi, Luna. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Hi, I remember seeing your videos when I came out in 2019. I was wondering if I use the same email you have to get voice training. These days, you can actually just book yourself on my website. So instead of having to email and wait for ages to hear back, there's just a booking portal. So this is the booking portal. Currently, you can book Clover or I on there. Group classes are added as availability shows up. So probably in 2 weeks, we'll open it up for another 27 people to get into our group course. And there's that. And then, yes, the email is still the same though. And then, of course, while I'm here, I haven't plugged my Patreon at all. I usually plug my Patreon when I'm doing live streams. There's my Patreon in case you want to support this community. Let's see here. What gave you this epiphany about the universe and voice? Well, I've always been very deeply connected to sound. I've always been a very critical listener, composer, timbre maker, sound designer, whatever. And then I needed a transition. And since I was so sensitive to sound, hearing my own voice was kind of like an Iron Maiden of pain. So really what pushed me to learn about voice was a real need in my own life to feminize my voice. And then after I feminized my own voice, people started asking me, they'd hear my voice and say, oh my gosh, how do you do that? Teach me. So I started teaching people. I started out for free, actually. I would just have people basically buy me a pizza, and then I would sit with them on Skype and talk to them and help them through their voice. And then I had my first couple students, and then more and more and more and more and more and more and more. And then it got to the point where now I'm like kind of over full with students. I have way too much demand, so I don't really know how to best address that, which is why my rates are pretty high. It's because I have a limited availability as a human being, and there's just an overwhelming amount of people who want to work with me, and same with Clover is starting to get pretty packed as well on their calendar. So I think I have another teacher that I want to bring into TransVoiceLessons. I'm very selective and very careful about who I bring into TransVoiceLessons because I do not want this to become a big company. I'm not interested in that. I was interested in that for a while, and I was making moves to create that and do that, but that's just not who I am. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to be a giant corporation. I don't want to have a pyramid thing where all these teachers are underneath me being exploited. Not interested in that at all. I'm interested in the teachers that I work with. I want them to own as much of their labor as possible, and I want them to be some of the absolute best in the world at doing this, and I want them to have the most cutting edge knowledge, the most cutting edge abilities, and the best skills possible to serve the trans community. And so I'm very selective about who I bring into TransVoiceLessons, because if I bring someone into TransVoiceLessons, it's because I believe that they are a caliber that represents what I do here. So otherwise I wouldn't mess around with it. Let's see here. And then the epiphanies came because I had to explain it to people. And, I tried a bunch of different methods at first. Like, I tried more commonplace methods. I tried, like, more singing-based approaches. I mean, I've gone through 5 or 6 models at this point, loosely over the years. And, now after having a lot of experience, I've just developed my own model. And that model is proving to be very successful, very effective. So I've been optimizing that with Clover, and Clover very much helps me develop those things. And we're very much in cahoots all the time now, which I really love, because doing it by myself was one thing, but having someone who I greatly respect and admire their contributions, it's much more fulfilling. It's just better. So let's see here. And there's a lot of things that I'll miss sometimes that Clover can correct me on, and Clover will miss things and I'll correct them on, and we can come to this place of just a better thing in the end, a better intellectual. I think of like vocal models like different technique approaches, different things. I think of them as intellectual technology. They're cognitive technology. That's why it's so important to choose the correct language, which is something, my older videos, I don't like that language I use in those videos. I had different models, right? And so it's just so important to have the right language, the right presentation, and because it's really this intellectual technology, and depending on the effectiveness of that technology, you'll be able to connect with someone's senses more quickly and influence their ability to perceive and modify and control more quickly. So it's very much, to me, it's a very tangible thing, a model, and it's very important, but it's not required to learn voice. As we can see, there's many trans women who have feminized their voice and they don't know anything about voice or sound. They just sit there and try to make a more feminine sound over and over. But models do provide frameworks that are very valuable. Let's see. Why isn't your music on Spotify? I need to put it on Spotify. I've probably been asked that question over 500 times at this point. There's no reason. I just haven't put my music on Spotify. I do think Spotify is a sketchy company that really rips off artists, but I'll still put my stuff on there. That's not why I don't have it on Spotify, but I do think, do you think gender is still a meme? Yeah, gender's definitely a meme. I don't think gender identity is a meme. And I don't think that, sex identity is a meme. But gender, definitely a meme in the most literal sense. A meme being an idea of culture or an idea of social interaction, which is transmitted through the population, through behavior, right? Like if you're looking at meme theory, which is something that Richard Dawkins first published about in the 1990s, in The Selfish Gene and subsequent follow-ups to that, literally gender is a meme. It is it's a set of behaviors and performances socially, which are transmitted through social interaction, and then we all act within those spaces. They become communication channels. So yes, gender, in my opinion, at this very most literal level, is absolutely an actual meme. Now, gender identity, I'm not so committed to say that's a meme, because I have a gender identity. I don't think it's mimetic. At least for me, it feels like it comes internally rather than externally. And sex identity, I don't think is a meme. Like, I don't know why, but for some reason, if I perceive quote unquote male traits about my body, I get filled with anxiety and anxiousness and pain. And I think if I were on an island and I had never met anyone, I'd still probably feel that way. Maybe, hard to say. So I do think gender is a meme. Hello, Sky the Fox. Wonderful. Yes, I love Vocaloid stuff. What's your favorite instrument to play? Depends on the day. I'll say Lumitone is probably my favorite to play, only because it affords me the ability to be freely... Ooh, can you all hear that? Is that coming through my speakers or my headphones? Oh, yeah. So Lumitone is probably my favorite because, it lets me play a lot of things that, you can't play other ways. Like that sus flats or that neutral chord. Can't play that on a piano. You can't play this on a piano either. So, Lumitone. Lumitone's probably my favorite instrument right now. Followed by that, lately, I love cello. Cello is one of my favorite instruments to play. Voice is probably my favorite instrument, I guess, if I include it in there. Pulsar 46. Pulsar 23X2 is probably like my favorite electronic instrument, favorite synth right now. So Lumitone is probably my favorite keyboard instrument. Voice is probably my favorite organic instrument in that way. Cello is one of my favorite string-based non-fixed pitch or discrete pitch fretted instrument. And then Pulsar 46 is probably the most insane electronic instrument. So those are my favorite instruments right now. Love your music, but I primarily follow you for your academic content. Thank you. What other content creators on YouTube do you recommend for voice training? I don't watch voice training YouTubers, so I can't really recommend too many other people. I kind of exist in my own little bubble, and I kind of stay in that bubble, at least when it comes to information I intake. Let's see. Let's see here. I read a lot of journal articles, though, and I had to for this paper that we've been working on. Let's see here. Proletariat Queen. Zia is a communist confirmed. Okay, I'll talk about this. I'm not a communist, but I am a bit of an anarchist, I guess, like an anarcho-syndicalist, like anarcho-socialist. I don't know, anarcho-whatever-y. I care a lot less about the specific system I'm under. I'm fine with market systems existing, and I'm fine with collective market systems existing, or sort of what would you say? Worker distributed kind of means of production. I'm cool with either. I just don't want people to control what I do or tell me what to believe. And that's really my big problem with like authoritarian leftists or authoritarian rightists, is that they ultimately feel that their opinion and belief is the correct and most best one. So they try to force it on you. I'm totally down with lefties, totally down with anarchists, totally down with anarcho, libertarian, like conservative libertarians that are anarchic. Totally not down with the fascies or the authoritarians, or authoritarian of any flavor to me makes me spit. You know what I mean? So I just want to be left alone primarily, and I'd be down for a market system. I'd be down for distributing means of production as long as it's a voluntary system that you opt into, right? So that said, though, I do have a lot of communist leanings or principles. Very much, and because I'm an anarchist, that's why I believe we should all own our own labor. I believe that owning your own labor should be a thing that happens. I'm not really a big fan of sort of having people work under you that just generate you a bunch of money, like a typical capitalist way where you own other people's labor and then you sell them tiny amounts of what they've brought you back to them. That's not really ethical, I think. But yeah, I'm definitely not a communist, but when I was younger, when I was like 19, 20, I was a communist. Then I kind of went the opposite direction, and then I kind of went back, and then I kind of was like social democrat, and over time, I've found that all the pure ideologies, there's something wrong with all of them, so I just kind of want to be left alone as much as possible, but at the same time, I'm fine to offer and invest in ways that we can support those who need it the most in our communities. So I'm very pro welfare and social programs, very pro decentralization. I think any centralized authority is very scary, and I don't like that. So that's a little bit about my politics. I don't have too extreme of views, except if you try to force me to do something that I don't agree with, I will stand my ground. So yeah, love that. Okay, I'm going to catch up at the bottom because I think I talked for so long about stuff. There we go. Yeah, I'm just like anarchist, like across the board. Obviously not like panarchism, because I don't even know how that would work, but like very much into sort of decentralized spaces and syndicals where worker co-ops. I'm very, very pro workers' rights. I believe that we should unionize, and I believe in collective bargaining very much. And obviously there's problems with everything. I think people are very quick to say, oh, collective, unions are so corrupt. I mean, sure. Yeah. I mean, human systems lend themselves to be corruptible, but that doesn't mean the idea of workers binding together to fight for more of their labor rights is like a bad thing, So, I'm very pro workers' rights in that regard. I support most of the strikes that are going on, so don't eat Lay's. I like Lay's chips, but I have not eaten Lay's since that strike. I think it may have been, I'm not sure if it's been resolved. I have not kept up with it, but I'm just not eating Lay's until I know one way or the other. Yeah, I like to say, like, I'm not really, like, lefty or righty. I'm just downy. So, if you're thinking, like, regular, like, two-dimensional political compass, which everybody knows is kind of a sham because You know, it's not politics aren't Cartesian. If I had to give myself any particular left, right direction, I would just say down. I'm just very down. You know what I mean? So, yeah, there's that. You said, sorry if I'm spamming. How much do your lessons cost? It's on my booking page. You can go and look at it. Let's see here. I posted the link below for booking. Currently, I'm booked up till February right now, so I apologize for that. I think I just opened up a day of consults in January, but I'm currently booked up to about February or very late January. There's some availability right now for February and March. Clover has availability, I think, in December as well, so probably Clover is a bit more accessible at the moment. I'm always super swamped and booked up, so I just let people book themselves. Let's see. There's that. Oh, my thing jumped down. I skipped some. Did you ever release Witchcraft as a full work or just Sonder, Witchcraft, and Forever? I have not released the album Witchcraft yet. It will be done hopefully soon. I'm taking most of December off. I'm taking basically 2.5, 3. Well, I was taking all of December off, but then I got sick in October, so now I have to make up some lessons in December. But I'm taking most of December off, and I'm going to finish my Witchcraft album, which, like I said before, is actually my 10th LP, but in my official works as Zia Arose, it's my 4th LP. So hopefully my 4th LP will be out, or not out, but will be done by the end of December. Hex is almost done. I've played Hex a couple times on stream. That piece is crazy. It sounds gorgeous right now. I love the direction it came out to be. Then I have another piece that I'm getting. Also, there's someone's thing I missed. Let me get to the super chat I missed. Yeah, I think that's funny when people are like, China's a communist country. My dude, they are very markets. They're very market driven. They're definitely not communist. They have a strong centralized authority, and they use that to manipulate markets effectively in the way that they want to. So, let's see here. I want to find that super chat. Okay, there it is. There's just so much stuff. Even has a watermark. Fashion is the greatest song ever recorded. I still listen to it every day. Ah, thank you. I'm glad you like Fashion. I've been thinking about putting out some more of that pop stuff, but haven't yet. So, yeah, unions are at least slightly less corrupt than corporate political complex. Agreed. I don't know how someone could be like, unions are bad, they're so corrupt, and then look at the military or look at Congress. You know, it's like, okay, human institutions tend to lean themselves towards being corruptible, especially in a capital system where capital is power, and because it's like, you have more capital, you have more power. Guess what? You can spend some of that power to corrupt a system. Most of the time, if unions go corrupt, it's because of capital. Most of the time when Congress goes corrupt, it's because of capital. All the corruptions that tend to occur within our system are not, really issues with the small sort of subset of the system being created. It's the fact that capital has so much power, Maybe I am more common. No, I'm joking. Okay, let's see. Loving your personality even more. It's an honor watching and hearing you. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I don't ever talk politics on my streams, but why not? At this point, I have nothing to hide from people. I've been on the internet long enough. Let's see here. Not down. That's so funny. This stream is sponsored by... I should be sponsored by Smart Water. That's a good idea. Yeah, there's a top bottom joke in there somewhere. There is somewhere. That's a funny question, Demon. I'm not sure I've got any tips for that. I don't think I feel that way. I tend to more so kind of operate internally. So, yeah, I don't know. Let's see here. I tend to think that there's something to learn from everybody. So if you think everybody around you are NPCs, maybe you're the NPC. Just a thought, I personally think that no matter how, let's say, non-cerebral a person is, you can always learn something from somebody, and there's always valuable lessons to be had in different interactions with people. So I don't know. I'm just teasing. I don't think you're an NPC, but maybe it's worth looking into. Okay. Labor Day was organized after workers died. Agreed. Z, how can I listen to your music? Ooh, beautiful question. Okay, so I have a Bandcamp, which you can check out. Spamming my Bandcamp in chat right now. And then I'm also going to give you my my music YouTube channel. I have an entire different YouTube channel that is strictly for my music. It's smaller, but it is a YouTube channel. So you can listen to my music that way. Please make more like fashion. What if I told you I have an entire album like fashion that I never released called Astral Dove? So maybe I will drop it someday. The thing is though, I kind of got bored of 12 Note Equal Temperament, which is what Astral Dove is written in. Around the time I was finishing that album, I kind of became obsessed with microtonality. And so that album never like finished or got released because, you know, it's not really what I'm after. However, I did play some of it recently for someone. I played this one tune and they were just like, this is crazy, you need to release this. So it was a soul album, a neo soul kind of pop jazz fusion album, Astral Dove. It's pretty much done, but I haven't released it, so maybe I'll drop it. Let's see here. How did you come up with the name Ziana? My actual name's Amelia. Ziana is like my like artist moniker, and it just came to me. I don't know. I was looking for something that sounded like a cyborg from the future, something that kind of sounded, something that kind of matched like the vibe I have in my music, you know? So I went with that. Let's see here. Hi. Did you get COVID? To this day, I have not had COVID. I've had I was sick 2 weeks ago, or sick last month, and I had 2 negative COVID tests. So from each time I've gotten sick in the last like 2 years, I've gotten COVID tested. I haven't tested positive yet. So I don't think I've ever had COVID. If I did have it, I was either asymptomatic carrier or something. Everyone on the trans subreddits loves you. Oh, that's really sweet. I'm very thankful to be supported in the way that I am. It's really honestly a blessing. And can I make a question about health problems with your voice? Yeah, go ahead. Feel free to ask questions. The stream gets more based by the minute. Based? Based on what? Okay. You need a competence hierarchy, not a power hierarchy. Yeah, Melissa, I can agree with that. You know, that's an argument that a lot of people that are very like pro-capital, pro-markets make. I'll agree with it. I mean, you know, the thing is though, you say we need a competence hierarchy, capitalism, but that implies meritocracy. And I do not believe we live in a meritocracy. Otherwise, firefighters would not be getting paid less than market investors, right? If we lived in a meritocracy where what we do gets rewarded adequately by value, that'd be cool. But then the question is, how do you derive and determine what value is, right? It's different for everybody. I personally believe that a firefighter provides more utility and value to society than a hedge fund manager, but the hedge fund managers are going to live a life of luxury and excess, and that would be an issue. I agree, though, corporatism versus capitalism is a little different, but I have thought about this a lot, because my brother is a federalist. He's very decentralized, states' rights, very pro-market kind of thing, right? And he always is saying, oh, no, it's not capitalism that crushes things, it's corporatism. He always says that argument. And I mean, there is some truth to that, but I just kind of believe that if we have capital operating how it does, it will always become corporatism. How do you stop capitalism from becoming corporatism? Because from what I've observed is capital has a tendency to attract other capital. And so let's say someone makes a product that's first to market. Guess what? Because of the way economy of scale works, if they create a great product and they make a bunch of money from their company, then they have the ability to build a factory. They have the ability to do all of this. Competitors can't compete. So if a competitor comes out on the market with a actually better product, a better idea, well, it's going to cost a lot more. So what are the consumers going to do? How do you disseminate information to the consumers so that every consumer is on an equal intellectual playing field about the products in the market? You just can't. And so what happens is someone who's first to the market with an idea, boom, they get this big capital injection. Boom, they invest in this vertically integrated production model where now they can produce the thing that they were producing for way cheaper. They get good margins and they get to sell the product for cheaper. That crushes competition. Competition somehow has to invest in R&D to make a better product than that, and they have to fight the economy of scale product. And what that's going to do is it means the person who was first to market is just going to build more capital? And what stops them from investing and putting more power and moving into other markets and naturally having more power? I don't understand how you stop corporatism with capitalism. It doesn't make sense to me unless you have a strong centralized government that is playing sort of, choosing. But then again, if you have a strong centralized government doing stuff in the markets, is it really capital? You know what I mean? So I just think the argument of corporatism versus capitalism was a little sus and a little sketchy, just because I cannot conceivably think of a way that you have market capitalism which does not create some power concentration, and that power concentration can then be used to influence what's occurring in the infrastructure, which creates more monopoly. So I just don't know. Let's see here. Looks like it's real politics hour here. Oh gosh, okay. Let's see here. Base was reclaimed. I know, I was joking. I know who Little B is. Let's see here. Val Heftel. I don't know who he reclaimed it from. Lil B was the one that started Based. You know what I mean? So Lil B, like Base God, was like, that's the thing, Z, where would you suggest starting with someone who has no idea? I did make a video on this, absolute beginner video. That's where I'd recommend. Otherwise, if you want to hop onto the server sometime and ask some even more basic questions than that, feel free, There's an acid. Sienna's Lillian, thank you. How do you spell Amelia? Just like normal. They like old style Amelia, A-M-E-L-I-A. Corporatism's kind of, yeah, agreed, Quinn. It'd be interesting hearing you talk to Hassan and Vosh about this. Hey, I'd go on their stream. That'd be fun. I'd talk to them. I'd love to be a good sort of positive sort of trans representation in these kinds of spaces. Also, consumer is a terrible term. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, but, that's how markets kind of call them, right? So, very good. How did you learn about this stuff? I don't mean voice, but like markets and stuff. I've read some stuff. I mean, I'm not like going to say like, oh, I'm so theoried out of my mind, but I have read some economic theory. I've read the writings of John Locke. I've read, I can't remember these old dead white dudes' names. I read them when I was in college, and I took a ethics class, which really made me interested in the ethics of different markets. And being a business person myself, I've had to come to terms with how forces of capitalism make me want to act in immoral ways. And so I've had to learn to temper the desire to act immoral for my own self-interest and to preserve my own future for being an ethical person who practices what I believe, which is why I've started downsizing. I don't want to be a big company. I don't want to do any of that. I've been renegotiating the contracts I have with people to give more of their labor back. So I'm just not interested in it. But the way I learned that stuff was a bit of theory, but honestly, I feel like a lot of market stuff is kind of intuitive. I used to trade, I still kind of do. I don't day trade anymore. I just long hold, but I used to trade cryptocurrency like back in 2017, 2018. I used to day trade it very often. And honestly, understanding markets in that way and in crypto trading, that helped me a lot in understanding like supply and demand curves. And I don't know. So I don't know. I've just always enjoyed economics to some degree. I definitely am not the smartest about it. So take what I say with a grain of salt, but I can just give you my opinion on stuff, Please clip this so you can react to it. Sure, I don't know what to clip, but definitely this is the smartest analysis you've heard in a good while. Well, I'm glad you think so. I don't think any God voice mom is cool. Shit. I'm so glad. Actually, your ideas are very much communist. Yeah, I mean, they are kind of, but the thing that I differ from other sort of, I'm more of like an anarcho-communist, the thing for me is that I would never do communism to where it's like, all right, everybody, you're going to do this or you're going to go to the gulag. I like Marxist-Leninists, not a big fan of those people. I mean, I'm a fan of them personally, but like not their ideology, just because I believe that they use authority to execute their end. And I think that they're basically saying they're so correct about what they're doing. It trumps your autonomy as an individual to operate how you want to operate. And that's a big problem for me, So it's less so that I disagree with communist beliefs, but more so I don't know how you get to a communist style government without imposing stuff on other people. I don't even know how you would have an anarchic system without imposing stuff on people, which is why I think we're in this weird place where we are. I don't think really anyone has the single solution, because I don't think there is a single solution. I don't think that's possible, So yes, you can all call me your voice mom. That's fine. That's what I am on Twitter. So you're welcome to do that. Clip it. Clip what? I'd love to clip something. Let's see here. Smart Water pull out their sponsorships. That's pretty good. Yeah. You'd love to hang with Hassan? Yeah, me too. He's hot. Let's see. Makes so much sense. Free basing. Oh, I didn't know that's what free. Okay, that makes sense. I didn't know the origin of that. Okay, scrolling down some, just reading, glossing over comments. I've done some, I answered a lot of voice questions earlier. So, Zia crypto shill? No, I'm not. I was. If you would have called me like 3 years ago, though, I'd have been a crypto shill. Miss season to all the things. I am. I just love learning. Learning is my favorite thing in the whole world, and I believe that the ability to learn itself is a skill. And so I've always tried to improve my ability to learn in general, which then allows me to learn anything I want, Authoritarianism is kind of cringe. It do be kind of cringe, though. Very good. Very good, very good, very good. Are you a fan of Noam Chomsky? I've heard of some of his stuff. I mean, I won't say I'm like a huge Noam Chomsky expert, but I mean, I've like understand his general perspective. I mean, I wouldn't even say that. And I feel like he's got a lot of perspectives, but I have listened to some talks from him and some lectures of him. I've listened to Richard Wolff. I've listened to the sort of Hegelian arguments. I have read the Communist Manifesto. I've read a significant chunk of Das Kapital, but I have not read all of Capital. There's this also this article from Marx on something on labor markets. I read that a long time ago. Like I said, I read John Locke. I've read. I started reading that Ayn Rand book. I think Ayn Rand is I'll just say it nicely, not my favorite theorist. I'll put it that way. Egoism is kind of cringe. So, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, so there's other stuff there. Okay, personal question. Would you ever change your hair drastically, like cut it into a pixie or dye it pink? Yeah, I'm thinking of getting white hair. I used to have white hair early in my transition, like platinum blonde and then bleach it again so that it's high white and then use purple toning shampoo. But right now, I just feel like black is like such a look for me that I'm kind of riding that look out, but I'm going gray. I've got a lot of gray hair here in the front, so whenever that gray takes me over, I'm just going to go all platinum blonde, extra high white. It'll be great, I think. What is your opinion on the bipartisan infrastructure bill and the reconciliation bill going through Congress, U.S. right now? I can't give you an opinion on it. I haven't looked into it. I would need to actually read the bill in order for me to publicly give my opinion on it. In general, though, I think infrastructure bills need to happen. I think we need a giant public works program in our country, and I think it can stimulate the economy quite a lot while also updating our infrastructure, which is pretty outdated. So my general principle is I think that works bills are good. I think that public works programs are great. However, it seems like there's this phenomenon in the U.S. government where they cram stuff into a bill that probably doesn't need to be there, So I'd have to read the bill to tell you what I think about it. Let's see here. A little bit of mucus. Oh, Kinsley, just remember that pictures are not you. Think about it this way. Here's something that can help you. If anyone in chat ever feels good and thinks they look good, and then they take a picture and they feel gross or they feel like they look ugly or something like that, remember this. Think about how powerful and beautiful it is to look at the moon at night, and then think about how weak and underwhelming it is to take a picture of the moon with your phone. A picture is not reality, okay? That picture does not represent who you are as a person, okay? So that was something I recently read from a friend of mine, and it was very, I'm sure that quote is from someone, that moon quote, but it really helped me, and, yeah, so. Let's see here. I don't have any favorite billionaires, Mansana. I'm not a shill for billionaires. I love learning so much. Yeah, me too. You look so pretty. Oh, thank you. Sugoi. Doesn't that mean sweet? Sugoi? Opinions on NFTs? I think that NFT technology in the future has some potential, but come on. buying Bored Ape on Twitter and making that your profile picture is kind of funny. I think that a big chunk of what's happening in the NFT market is strictly a speculative bubble. I do think that there is some genuine cool stuff that can happen with NFTs, but I think the primary way they're like operating right now is like a speculative bubble. But I do think there is technology there that's really cool. Having like direct, unique, authentic ownership of some digital asset, I think could translate out positive ways in lots of other things. Maybe it's a better way to do DRM. Maybe in the future there's like a blockchain, and when you buy a product, you're given like a private code, and then you register that you own the software on a blockchain. I think that there's cool ways that NFTs could work, but just getting some ape Twitter profile picture that looks the same as like a million other ones, and you pay like a couple $1,000s for, I just think it's interesting because people say like, oh, NFTs, like, well, market scarcity, there's only one of them. Yeah, but if you can just make a million Bored Apes, I mean, are they really that scarce? Is the supply really that limited if the person making the NFT can just make more? So I don't know. I'm bullish on the technology in NFT, bearish on the like speculative bubble NFT. You know what I mean? So. Thank you, David France. I appreciate that. Yeah, I form my own opinions on everything. I am not parroting any points. I disagree with just about everybody on most things. Let's see here. I missed my... let's see. I saw something about Patreon. If you've missed something on Patreon, feel free to just reach out. I'll be making that up. Honestly, I was like gone all of October, so I'm super behind on Patreon perks. Big behind. So yeah, if that's the case and you're waiting, feel free to submit other stuff or just DM me personally. I'm very committed to making sure everyone's taken care of. I definitely miss people's feedback sometimes. I definitely fall behind. I'm human, but I'm very committed to taking care of each person. So reach out if you've had that experience, or you yourself felt like you missed a cycle or something. We'll make that right. Let's see here. Do you believe the US is in decline? I think there's more to a society than financial stability, kind of. I mean, maybe not, because once you lose financial stability, you end up in a weird space. We're in decline in some aspects, and we're in incline in other aspects. I think that when people say society's in decline, like, I think that's very much like a panic kind of thing. I think that's very much like a scary terms. I mean, sure, some things are declining, some things are inclining, So it's hard to say without saying specific variables or facets of society that you're talking about are in decline or not in decline. I can't really comment if I think it's in decline or not. So how do you improve your ability to learn? Well, for me, it was all about understanding how to create metacognition in my own mind, right? One breakthrough I had when I was 17, 18 is this idea of network topology. My friend of mine was studying computer science at the time, and he's like, have you ever heard of network topology? And I'm like, no. So he tells me what it is, and it blew my mind, because I realized, network topology is meta topology. It's structure. It's the structure and the way nodes of information inside of a system relate to one another. And I quickly realized, actually, all endeavors you do, or whether it's art or music or what you're trying to learn, they're ultimately using the same topologies, just with different amounts of data inside the nodes. The nodes have different amounts of information, but really what matters about learning and getting better at something is how do you generate connections between nodes, right? Because if everything is technically a node of information, and our goal is to try to draw these connections between everything that we know, it's like there's a experience and a resource and a sensation of connecting information. And on a metacognitive level, that really is the ubiquitous architecture that allows you to scaffold out ideas. And so I kind of learned that actually learning one thing is the same as learning anything. And so then whenever I'm learning things, I'm trying to operate on that metacognitive level as opposed to operating on like the surface level. You know, it's like if you try and learn a new skill, it's like, oh, there's all this information I have to take in this. But if you say, okay, now I'm starting to form these connections between this information, well, the framework that connects the information is the same stuff, the same material, so to speak, as what you connected in other fields too. And ultimately, there is a finite amount of topological structures. If we're counting unique novel structures, there is like a finite amount of those, right? You have like a tree network, you have like a full mesh topology, you have a partial mesh topology, you have a bus, I think that's what they're called, like a linear display of information. You can have a ring network. There's just all these like meta structures, and those meta structures are like components that create your experience of knowing something. And so then how can you form connections quickly? How can you sort and organize that sort of cognitive architecture? So for me, getting better at learning things is really a process of metacognition. Very important. Gosh, I'm so far behind. I'm just having such fun stuff talking about everything. That's so poetic. Oh, absolutely. It's not my original thing. That thing about the moon, I think is what you're talking about, right? Not my original thing. But if I would love to post it anyways. I'll try to find who the original quote was. Z, you were already the coolest, but now I realize we could pretty much discuss anything for hours. I can talk about anything for hours. I just love stuff. I love learning. I just love it. How do you feel about the Facebook Meta rebrand? Feels like we are one step closer to our cyberpunk dystopia. That's how I feel. I think NFTs are absolutely not worth the environmental impact. Fair. Okay. There we go. I'm glad that helped, Kinsley. Sugoi means awesome, cool, amazing. Very, very, very sugoi. Thank you for sharing that. There we go. Yeah, the Harambe in it. Okay. Skincare routine. Yeah, I've talked about this a bit. I use tretinoin. Hyaluronic acid, and moisturizer. That's part of my skincare routine. So I wake up in the morning, cleanse my face, put on hyaluronic acid while my face is still wet, and then wait till it dries, put on moisturizer, and then every 2 days or so, or every day, I will then at night cleanse, do tretinoin, and then I will do moisturizer after that. So, yep, that's my general skincare routine. Also, never let the sun touch you. Avoid the sun at all costs. The sun is a deadly laser that melts your skin and makes you look older. So, wear sunblock. I either don't go outside, or I wear sunblock, or I wear sunblock and I bring a UV-proof parasol with me wherever I go. So if you ever see me out in the world and it's like noon out, I'll have my parasol with me almost always. Unless I have sunblock on and it's like winter and it's not like that much UV, then I'll just do sunblock. But if it's summer, the heat of summer, I'll sunblock and parasol. I have to. Is hope the root of frustration? No, I don't think so. I think frustration is an emergent behavior, is an emergent feeling that comes out of misunderstanding how to achieve what you want. So thinking of it in the voice context, to bring it back to voice, if you have hope that you can feminize your voice and then you keep trying and quote unquote failing and that makes you frustrated, I don't think that hope is the origin of frustration. I think that hope interacting with resistance and then perceiving that resistance in a sort of unconstructive or unhealthy way creates frustration, right? So I think if you're experiencing that block, that push against when you're working on voice feminization and you're getting frustrated, I think you really need to reorient yourself to what you're doing and think more on a broad level. Like every action you take is valuable in some capacity. Voice learning is nonlinear. I think oftentimes frustration grows out of linear thinking thinking, in order to do this thing, I have to do this thing. And then you do that and it doesn't work. And then you get frustrated, right? I think a lot more things are nonlinear than we like to think. And I don't think our minds are particularly, quote unquote, wired for nonlinearity. And so I think frustration is more so a reaction of sort of a desire to execute something, resistance of that occurring, and the inability to kind of frame why that is resistance is occurring and how to work past it. I know for me, I get so frustrated about different things. I have to take a breather and relax and kind of reset myself. But I don't think hope is where frustration comes from. I think hope or intention to execute something with other forces acting on it in a way that are giving you outcomes you don't want, and then you can't see the sort of reason why. I think that's where frustration comes from. I certainly hope so, Zest. Do you like social credit meme trend? No. Is it a meme? I don't know. Is it a meme? I mean, I don't like the social credit idea. I think that's really weird. But yeah. I think privacy is very important. I'm very, very pro-privacy. Let's hear some music. Sure. Parasol, that's a look. I have different colored parasols, different textured parasols for all sorts of different things. Yeah, I'm 30, or I'm 29. I turned 30 in 2 months, or a month. I turned 30 in 1 month. Let's see. Meta is square one on the cyberpunk dystopia bingo card. You are not wrong about that. Let's see. Someone says they want to hear music. Do you? You won't be able to hear it very well. Can you hear that? Is that okay? Is that loud enough? I'm not warmed up though, because I've just been talking and chatting. Here's a nice harmonic 7. Here's a cool chord, sub minor 7. Oops, my bad, comma. Neutral 3rd with a perfect 4th with a sus 7. With a super 9. Beautiful sound, right? The super 9 is so gorgeous. You could do like super 9 over really most things. So like gorgeous. You can even do it this way. I also like super 6s. Bit of music. Let's see here. Oh gosh, Zia confirmed as an anarcho-communist vampire. You can confirm that on this stream. That is totally fine for me. Let's see here. Scrolling down, trying to catch up. Skipping some things. Microtone's great. Woo, okay. It's a lumitone, not a piano. That's true. It is microtonal. Yes, that is microtonal music. Damn, it's a piano sound on a microtonal instrument. That piano is really out of tune. It's more in tune than any other piano you've ever heard. Just maybe not in tune with your social and cultural expectations, which have been reinforced on you by birth. So technically it actually is more in tune in terms of if we're thinking about the overtone series and the way that ratios work, tuning ratios. So actually, yeah, very strange noises indeed. Favorite key? Well, I work in systems that are constantly different sized amounts of notes. I was just playing with 31 notes. You know, sometimes I will work with 37 notes or 28. So keys become a little less meaningful. I just am always thinking relativistically, whatever I'm working in. And oftentimes I work in things which are unequal keys, or I should say unequal scales. So every single key sounds completely different. So it's hard to say. Like, for instance, if I am in my Novum Decimal 12 tuning, I'm a big fan of the flat 6 key in that tuning. The F sharp space, if you're thinking of it rooted on A. So it just depends. But even then, it's not actually an A, because if you change the diapason tuning reference, you're kind of whatever. So I just think very relatively about music. Is the piano out of tune, or are those just really wonky chords? This piano is not out of tune. This piano is microtonal. See, if I play normal chords, sounds fine. But I have the ability to play things like sub minor, or I could play normal minor, or sub minor, or sub minor super major 9. So it's definitely not out of tune. It's just you've been culturally brought up in a society. It's just like gender, where it's a meme. Tuning is a meme. You've been brought up in a society which has basically forced you to listen to the same 12 relationships in every single piece of music you've ever heard. And as a result, things that are totally normal and naturally occurring and actually occur more prevalently in nature itself in terms of the way the harmonic series works actually sound out of tune to you. You can blame the colonialization of our ears to Western music. And the colonialization of tuning is a big issue. I mean, we can see other cultures have their own unique tuning systems starting to be sort of stamped over by 12-note equal temperament. There is no significant benefit between 12-note equal temperament, except for the fact it's so few notes, it's highly symmetric, and it fairly okay approximates the major third and gives you somewhat close to perfect fifths and gives you pure octaves. Otherwise, it's just one of an infinite amount of tuning systems that you could use, you know? Yeah, it's not 12-note equal temperament. And aren't there only a few Lumitones in the world? That's true, although you can buy one. Actually, the Lumitone company is flying to my studio this December. They're going to do an artist feature on me. I don't know if I'm supposed to leak that, but shh. You all heard it first, so that'll be a really cool artist feature. They're gonna come and check me out in my own element, and it'll be really cool. Is that thing out of tune from pressing down the pedal? No. I just have I have 280 notes in front of me, so yeah. That's what music sounds when dissected or isolated. I'm not dissecting or isolated really anything. I feel music contextually, but the thing is, microtonality is my default musical language. I just create free pitch, and, you know, I play microtonal cello and piano, and I tune my own physical piano. So to me, these sounds don't sound out of tune. They sound like what I intended to create, you know? There's nothing novel about these sounds. They're beautiful sounds that have a place alongside other stuff. You know, there's more to music than just a major chord and a minor chord and a diminished chord, you know? There's all kinds of beautiful sounds that exist that are far outside of 12-note equal temperament, and I live for those sounds just because they're so stimulatingly beautiful. Like that, it's so pretty. The rubbing of the diasis. Just beautiful. See, that's not out of tune. That's what I want to play. That's a neutral. That's a chord over a neutral bass. And it has this beautiful ability to kind of lift or fall in certain ways that are different than what we normally hear, like... just gorgeous. There's so much more than just 12 notes, you know? Let's see here. You're in love? Oh my God, teach you music? Yeah, gladly. You know, you can book my voice lessons and I'll teach you music, or maybe I'll have to start teaching. I used to teach music full time. That's what my career was from 2010 to, I mean, I was in college in 2010, so I was like mostly focusing on my education, but I mean, I've taught music theory for years. That's what I taught far before I did anything involving voice. I had a full studio of music theory students, and that was all private, and love it. I love teaching music theory. Z is graying? No way. Girl, I'm almost 30. You bet I'm graying. Can you see the 280 keys or whatever? Sure you can. Maybe. That is the Lumitone. So it's just a regular keyboard. Well, kinda. I mean, other than the fact it's, you know, 280 keys and microtonal and hexagonal and generalized isomorphism, but otherwise it's pretty much just like a normal piano or keyboard. Yeah, I have entire live streams. Actually, I put out a video if you want to see more Lumitone stuff. I put out a video on my music YouTube channel about 2 weeks ago doing a Lumitone thing. So if you want to see what it looks like, you can see it there and you can hear more of it there. Whoa. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I think it's Denise, right? So I really, really, really appreciate that so much. Thank you for being a part of the stream. And, you know, I also want to say thanks everyone who's done any super chats or subscribed on Patreon or tried to support in any way. It really means a lot, like for real. It is velocity sensitive. Yes, absolutely. They're all pressure sensitive controllers. It's velocity sensitive and it has aftertouch, full aftertouch for 280 keys. Normal music theory is frustrating. Well, normal music theory is like kind of a shame. I don't think music theory is frustrating, but I think the way that music theory is currently taught is frustrating. If I wasn't in the voice world, I'd be revolutionizing in the music theory world, which is what I was doing before I went into voice. The way that people think about, well, yes, Dan, but the problem is the Hockham Continuum fingerboard is not actually a continuum of microtonality. It actually is technically 72 EDO or 48 EDO, so it's actually not free pitch, which is a problem, which is why I don't play one, because if I want genuine free pitch, I could play an electronic instrument that uses voltage, or I could use my cello, or I could use my voice, which are truly free pitch instruments. The Continuum fingerboard seems really cool, though. I'd like to learn it eventually at some point. Okay, someone said, is learning music theory bad? I've heard people say it puts you in a box. Okay, this is the most ridiculous thing ever. Okay, that's like saying learning more vocabulary in your speech puts you in a box. It does the opposite. However, if you're taught music theory poorly, it can put you in a box. Music theory, in my opinion, must be taught descriptively, not prescriptively. Theory does not tell you at all what to do. Theory simply describes things so that you can interact with those things more meaningfully. You know, it should never put you in a box if you're actually learning theory in a good and useful kind of way. The reason why people think theory puts you in a box is because what people think when they say I'm learning music theory is actually Western common practice music theory, which is a very specific tradition of music theory that exists in academia. And it is very useful if you manage to go through it all the way to the end, because what they do is they start you out with early music theory stuff, common practice, and then they work you forward into the contemporary age. So the thing is, though, if a beginner goes to learn music theory and they're being taught like voice leading rules from like the 1600s, 1700s, and they're being taught it as rules, not as guidelines to achieve a certain style of music, then it will be limiting and it will put you in a box. Yeah, absolutely. But that's because that's theory taught without context. That's prescription. And the reason why you would ever prescribe a student what to do in theory is as a technical exercise. The problem comes when people hear certain guidelines or principles of music theory and they think that those guidelines are like the guidelines of how to make music instead of a framework for compositional exercise to learn how to compose music that sounds like it's from the 1750s, right? You can do that kind of guideline thing in any different way. It's just a technical exercise. It doesn't have to be that way. Music theory is incredible and beautiful. And anytime you make a single statement about music, you're doing music theory. If I play a chord and you tell me you think it sounds a little reddish, you just did music theory. Music theory doesn't have to be a specific calculated thing. Music theory is how you describe music. And no, if you are adequately learning music theory in an effective way, no, it should never, ever, 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 ever limit what you're doing. A technical composition exercise which imposes guidelines on you will limit what you do. But that's not the goal of theory, right? That's a compositional exercise. So there's a lot of chaos in the music theory teaching thing. I really hate the way that music theory is taught conventionally. There's some good aspects to it. And by the way, I'm not an enemy of common practice harmony. I studied common practice music theory, common practice harmony. I've studied music theory all the way from the 11th century forward to now. You know, it's just that the way people think about theory and its role in music creation is wrong. Theory doesn't teach you how to do stuff. I get students I used to get students all the time when I taught theory, but I hear from people all the time say, oh, I need to learn more music theory so I can make more music. It'll expand your vocabulary, but how you use that vocabulary is up to you, right? Theory doesn't tell you what to make. It doesn't tell you what to do with the material. It just gives you material. And what you decide to do with that is the aspect and process of composition. And that is its own craft and study entirely. There's music theory and there's music composition. And yes, they have a lot of intersections, and when you study them in university, you study both and you end up with a composition and theory degree. But composition is a different craft and practice than raw musical theory as it relates to harmony or melody, right? When we think of composition, it's more about the way you put materials together, and you're usually thinking in a 5-point lens between, and this is a model, right? It's not reality. There's so many other lenses you could use, but you're typically thinking of orchestration, harmony, rhythm, form, and melody forming the key fundamental elements of music to then which you use as your materials to create statements of what you want to express or what you want to make. Just like in visual art, you've got color, you've got shape, you've got balance, you've got form, right? Depth. These are materials and elements that you use. And as a graphics drawing student, you'll do perspective exercises. You'll do color mixing exercises. You'll learn to draw different forms and figures. And those things, they're not telling you what to make in your art. They're giving you tools so that when you go to make your art, you can make what you want. And that's what theory is all about. So I hope that answers your question. I went on a little bit of a rant there, but I'm so happy you asked that. This idea that music theory somehow makes you limited or makes you robotic is so crazy, you know? It's just not, it's not grounded in a real genuine understanding of what theory is and how what its role is in music. Okay. Wow, I've never watched this channel. I very much didn't know you were so into music. Yeah, that's my foundation. That's my soul. I'm a musical mystic. I worship sound and I worship music, and at a very genuine level. And that's what my previous education is in. That's what my background is in. That's what my passion is. I love teaching voice too. It's a passion of mine as well. But music is my heart and soul for sure. Let's see here. Gosh, I'm so far behind. Riley here, 20, MTF. 6 months. Your voice videos give me confidence. I'm so happy to hear that. Lavender Mountaineer Society. It's wonderful to have you here, and I'm so thankful to be able to help you in a positive way. Ouija 8, I think that's 8, asks, what would be a meaningful interaction with, for example, tuning my untouched classical guitar? I love the sound, but I don't appreciate much beyond me songs. Well, here's the problem. Guitars are fretted, which means that you can never play outside of 12-note equal temperament when you start fretting. However, you could tune the open strings to a new system. You could tune the open system, or you could tune the open strings to whatever harmonic structure you wanted. You could tune it to, a 2, 3, 5, 9, 11. You could tune it to different ratios, different things. But once you start fretting, you're not really, you're playing in 12 notes at that point. So that's why I tend to not be a huge fan. I don't touch my guitar very much anymore. I want microtonal guitars. I want fretless guitars, because I just find that the aspect of frets is very, very limiting. Theory always comes after music. Completely agree. Absolutely. Yep. Very good. Do you hold degrees in music? Yes, I do. Music theory is a language, not a formula. Exactly. How to book the 6 or 12-week group class? Look in about a week or two. I'll make an update on the YouTube channel and it'll go up on the website. And then on the booking page, you'll have an option for that. So I'll make sure to announce that when that goes live. Try to be kind of quick with it. I think the last... so there's 27 people in each voice group course, and the first one sold out really fast once I posted about it on YouTube. But there will be 2 of them at the same time. What subjects do you not know stuff about that you still want to learn about? Well, I really want to learn programming syntax. I understand programming and coding and the way that logic and information flow works, but I don't have a syntax that I can work inside in a programming language. So I would like to learn some programming language, because I think I'd be a great programmer, but I've just never learned the language, I want to learn more about everything. Things that I don't know very much about that I would like to learn more about. Programming. Oh, math. I love math, but I want to learn a lot more math. Like when I was in high school, I didn't do very well in math because I didn't have very good eyesight, and I ended up falling behind because I couldn't read the board or the overhead. I love math though. I think I'm so endlessly fascinated with it. So I'd like to learn more about that. More math, more computer science. I'd like to learn. I'd like to learn more electrical engineering. I'm really interested in, eventually being able to build my own circuits and stuff and build my own electronic instruments. So I'd like to learn more about electrical engineering. I'd like to learn more about computer science. I'd like to learn more about mathematics. I'd like to learn more languages. I only really know 2 languages, German and English, and my German is pretty rough these days because I don't get to use it very often. But I would love to learn more languages, would love to learn computer science, would love to learn more mathematics, and would love to learn electrical engineering. So I hope that answers that. Okay, very good. Thank you so much for the super chats again. I just scrolled back over them. Where should people start when learning to make Zen harmonic stuff? It's a tough question. It just depends on your background and stuff. I think you can't really go wrong learning about the harmonic series and basic just intonation first. I think you need to hear the harmonic series stuff. What was it like going to a gender affirming clinic? It took me a while, but I did not get hormones the same day. If I would have known that I wouldn't, I would have DIY'd from the beginning. Let's see. Do you recommend any sources for learning music theory? Same thing as when people ask me, do I have any sources for voice theory? I really think the overwhelming majority of information that's out there in the world on music theory and voice theory is pretty bad. So I really don't have good recommendations for where to learn theory from. It depends on your musical background, though. I can recommend some resources that I find helpful, different music theory texts, but it just depends on the level you're at, Personally, if you already know a bit of music, Vincent Persichetti's 20th Century Harmony is a great read. If you already know a lot about music, I would maybe recommend Schoenberg's Fundamentals of Music Composition. If you're into jazz, I would recommend Mark Levine's Jazz Theory book. That's a great intro into jazz theory in a very applicable way. There's lots of examples that you can work through. It's so dependent, and I just feel there's such a massive deficiency in good theory resource. Before I started TransVoiceLessons and before I transitioned, I used to have a music theory YouTube channel, and that's what I was working on doing, was making better music theory resources, but I took it off the internet because I looked like a guy and I sounded like one too. Let's see. I have a standard fret layout. How do I tune it to be less stuck? It's not possible. You can tune the open strings and you can play the open strings, and whatever you set the open strings to, it'll be a new tuning. It's a cool sound. And you can bar. You can do a bar chord with those open strings, and then that will just give you whatever the open strings are moving up in 12-note equal temperament. But if your frets are fretted 12-note equal temperament, sorry, you're in 12-note equal temperament. You've just described one of the general problems I've seen for beginners in the CSIT fields as well. I agree. I mean, it's not even just a problem of music theory or a problem of voice theory. There's a fundamental problem in the way people approach learning and the codification of pedagogical information. Almost no field in activity right now is structured in the most efficient way. It's crazy. You know, you can go on YouTube and you can find really good lectures from MIT on quantum mechanics, and it all makes sense. I mean, as much sense as quantum mechanics are going to make. But then if you go and you try to learn it in like other formats, you know, where it's not distributed or if it's not lectured well, it's like what are you even talking about? This is ridiculous, you know? It's just so much about the complexity of something to understand comes from the presentation and the structure of the information being relayed to you. And that is the art of pedagogy. I believe that teaching how to teach is an art form, and unfortunately that art form is greatly lost on the vast majority of fields that exist today. Yes, a story can be written with very few words, and a million words may not write a story. Exactly. It's what you do with the material that you have that is meaningful. Caveman didn't have theory, but they still sung. That's right. And they sung in just intonation too. And that's why we should be microtonal, because it gets us closer to the source. Programming, lots of excitement for that. Yes. Prescriptivism is pretty cringe 90% of the time. Agreed. In linguistics, music theory, agreed. It's just so cringe. Let's see here. Did you just pronounce meme, Mimi? No, I didn't. I say meme. Let's see. There are fretless guitars, yeah. If you could pick an artist, living or dead, to collab with, who would you choose? That's weird, because I feel like there's artists I'd want to collab with, but they're not collabers. I'd love to collaborate with Ravel. I'd bring Ravel into my studio and be like, all right, Ravel, we're about to drop a banger mixtape, and just have like the most beautiful, like hyper expressive, like late impressionist, modern. I feel like if I like got high with Ravel and had him play with this thing back here, that's the collaboration I would like. I would love to see how some of the great masters of old would have handled the new resources available today, particularly with like timbre, you know? Oh my God, thank you. Gosh, there's so many amazing questions. You know, if there's interest, I could do a music theory stream sometime. There's a lot of questions about how to start learning theory. I mean, there's so many bad answers. It's hard to give a good one. Do you believe in magic? Yes, I do. Chaos magic primarily. And I myself consider myself practicing witch, harmonic witch. I work in the realm of sound, and that's what I practice, and that's my craft. Tuning to me is meditative, and I very much am spiritually connected to sound, period. So yeah, definitely believe in magic. There's experiences I've had that transcend the ability to be defined with regular language, and to me, that's where it enters this spiritual realm. Group courses are POG, recommend. Thank you for that recommendation. What do you want to know about electrical engineering? I'm an electrical engineer. More than one question, that's for sure. I really want to understand circuitry and understand blueprints for circuitry, and understand how to put it all together without hurting myself. So, Tigger to you, thank you so much for that super chat. I really appreciate that. Math is another thing which is taught in such a Eurocentric way. Agreed. I mean, and I don't even think because it's Eurocentric it's bad, but I just think that a lot of the Eurocentric styles of teaching have this like hegemonic like tradition, and like that hasn't been updated for years, decades, you know? I think that we're having all this technological innovation constantly. Why are we also not updating and innovating the way we teach the basic fields and basic materials? Like when I look at Common Core in the United States, like the public education stuff, yeah, surely that'll work. It's a great way to do education, you know? So it's agreed. It's whenever certain models or descriptions of things long outlast their time, that's the problem I have with it, you know? When they're there just because they have historical inertia. 20th Century Harmony is great. That book is wonderful. What is math? Did you see my DM about the guitar I might be commissioning? I don't think so, Benzel. Send me a message. I can't believe she actually answered my question. I'm freaking out. Well, I'm glad you asked it. I forget what it was, though. Let's see. Trying to get an extended range guitar with interchangeable fretboards. That's so sick. Oh my gosh. There's so much. Let me thank you, Sylvia. Thank you so much for that super chat. I really appreciate it so much. I can't thank everyone enough for the support on this channel. It really means a lot. I'm really happy to be able to do stuff like this. And it's cool that, oh, bumpers. Now I see your message, Binzel. Let's see here. Notice I'm saying your last name because I don't want to dead name you over and over. Let's see. Oh, the tuning for HiveMind Consensus Protocol. HiveMind Consensus Protocol used a 12-note just intonation tuning. So I can definitely send you that. And also that idea of a movable fretboard sounds, or removable modular fretboard sounds really, really awesome. As a hyperlexic, I just learned a new word, pedagogical. Yes, it is such a good word. Closer to the source. Could you expand on that? Depends on how deep you want to go. Closer to the source of sound perception, closer to the source of what timbre means, closer to the source of how pressure waves occur in our universe, closer to the source of my spirituality. It just depends on how far you want to take it. I really mean the harmonic series and the way the harmonic series acts as everything, something which everything is compared against. You know, we basically have total noise, and then we have a harmonic series, and then as we reduce the harmonic series, we become progressively more simple, more controlled to a sine wave. And we can kind of think of all sound as existing somewhere on a spectrum between silence and white noise as different frequencies add in. And the earliest sort of frequency addition we could say is maybe just one sine wave, and then we can stack one sine wave on another in a certain pattern. And there's a certain pattern that exists in nature naturally, the harmonic series, and that harmonic series is integer multiples of frequencies, 1 against 2 against 3 against 4 against 5. It's the great polyrhythm, basically, of all natural numbers. And how deep do you want to go? I mean, I personally, for me, my spirituality and kind of personal religion is this idea of sort of, if periodic behaviors, physical periodicity in a system tends to create other overtones and harmonics in this way, I tend to think of maybe like the expansion of the universe, whether that's the Big Bang or what, and its inevitable heat death as really being the peak and the trough of a wave, and everything occurring inside this universe is really just some hyper complex harmonic of that wave. And to us, things may appear like noise, including my life and my identity and this world and timeline I'm in, but I believe there is great order really coming out of this like sort of cycles within cycles within cycles process. And I'm far too small to ever try to make a greater statement about that great cycle, but that's what's beautiful about it. I can experience that cycle as a fractal with my ears and my sensory experience, and I can have auditory experiences that are profound, which are sort of like echoes, shadows on the wall of this greater cycle which is occurring, and is just sort of ubiquitous and harmonic, and at all levels of scale that we observe. So yeah, that's what I mean, closer to the source. That's why I like microtonality. It allows me to create new sounds, and it also allows me to get closer to the source. I can play all the normal familiar things, you know, but I can also play the things that the universe says. And then and sort of juxtapose that with 12-note equal temperament. You just totally... English is a hard language to pronounce. Agreed. Yeah. Please do that. Composition too. That'd be fun. Music theory channel. I would do it on my music channel. I have a music channel, and I do talk about music theory on there. I'll plug it again because it's a lot smaller than my voice channel. Yeah, I have theory videos on there. 2 of them right now, but I'm gonna upload some more in the future. Let's see here. Oh, that's fine, Zest. That's no problem. Anarcho-communist witchcraft for the win. Yes, agreed. So that whole thing... Evan has a watermark, says, so that the whole thing about a witch who turned herself into sound, that's autobiographical. Yeah, to some extent it is. Yeah. This is my pen name, musically. So the character signs everything vis, but I mean, that's really me. I mean, it's me and it's not me. You know what I mean? It's like parts of me, and then also this like freedom to become a narrative experience. So yeah, there's definitely elements of vis that are me and vice versa. You can see Z being a college level teacher. I teach college level teachers. I'm a little bit beyond that these days. I would probably never teach in college just because doing it privately allows me to be more flexible and allows me to kind of do whatever I want, and it's more fulfilling. So I was originally accepted for a master's into PhD from the University of Chicago, and then I turned that down and moved to Seattle and started my voice business. So I was going to get my master's and PhD in music composition and music theory, and then I probably would have taught in a university, but these days this is not a good enough thing. Thank you so much, Jordan Black. I'm so thankful to be able to help you, and thank you so much for the super chat. It really means a lot. I can see the universe through sound, or maybe harmonics. That is true. Yes, that is what I see the universe through typically. That's also why I do stuff with voice theory, because it's all operating on the same principles. What DAW and VSTs do you use in your music? I use FL Studio. I've been using FL Studio since like 2005 or something like that, 2006. VSTs, lots of different stuff, just whatever works. I mostly use Serum, Contact, Spitfire strings, because I've learned how to micro tune those. Just a lot of different stuff, honestly. But Serum is kind of my go-to soft synth right now, and Contact is my go-to sample loader that I then micro tune stuff. Oh, hello, Corin. It's so great to thank you so much. I'm feeling your love from Indonesia. What a great explanation of your spiritual sense of the universe. You have a good brain. Thank you, Claire. I appreciate that. Would you consider yourself an atheist practitioner, or do you believe in deities? The harmonic series is my deity. I don't believe in other deities. I respect other deities, though, and I think there's stuff to learn from them, because they can act as symbols and they can act as sigils. And sigils and symbols have the ability to change the way we believe things, and belief is fundamentally a tool to exercise will and intention on the world to change it. So I believe deities have power because people give them power in their own ideas and minds, which then allows them to sort chaos into meaning. Today is Trans Parents Day. Are your parents accepting? My mother died about 10 or 11 years ago. My father is extremely supportive, extremely accepting, and he's probably one of my best friends in the whole world. So my father loves me very much, and I love him very much, and I'm very blessed and thankful to have my father's love in such a profound and unconditional way. Okay, let's see here. Lots of stuff. Yeah, I've thought about that VO, but it's kind of it'd be fun. I'd have to get someone's consent. I don't know. Let's see here. What flex? She's talking music? Yeah, I'm talking music. I mean, I don't know what flex. You mean about the college teachers or whatever? Yeah, I mean, I just think most like professors, like, not most, but yeah. Let's just say I could definitely teach college and beyond that. I work with a lot of people who, at least when I was teaching music theory several years ago, I was actually working with a lot of theory students who had their master's or PhD in composition and music. So I didn't mean to like flex, but like I've taught people who, you know, want to continue their studies after graduate school, and they picked me to do that with. So it's pretty cool. Feel like you just stepped into a cult? Kinda. You don't have to believe what I believe, though. Is the harmonic series akin to an auditory fractal? Absolutely, it is. Technically, we can think the harmonic series goes on forever, theoretically, and since it's all whole numbers, it just restarts itself over and over. So 1 to 2 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc. Those exist as multiples for every prime number as well, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, etc. And that's really the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the third harmonic. And so yes, the harmonic series is quite literally an auditory fractal. Where it's recursive, it repeats itself at different levels over and over, and each prime number is essentially the start of a new meta series inside of that. I have an entire discussion of that over on my music channel under the theory of primodality, which is my music theory approach for just intonation that I've been working on a book and everything, and those kinds of things there. When Schoenberg didn't go far enough, no, he didn't. But Schoenberg knew these things. Schoenberg was well aware of the harmonic series. Pretty much everyone who read Rameau, Jan-Philippe Rameau's theory of harmony, was familiar with the harmonic series after like the 1700s. So, I mean, honestly, people have been familiar with the harmonic series since Pythagoras and before that, you know. The harmonic series is not a secret. It's kind of the foundational backbone of the way pitches work with each other, because if you create pitch with a string or you create pitch with a voice or a pressure column, you're going to create the harmonic series above that pitch unless you have an instrument which is highly inharmonic. And then in that case, since you're creating a harmonic series, the way that you tune other pitches is directly based around the harmonic timbre. So, it's kind of inescapable. Happy daylight savings ending. Oh, did we just gain an hour? Suddenly it feels later, but it's actually 1:16. That's kind of cool because it's actually 2:16, right? Very cool. How long did it take you to learn to play low tone? Still learning it, but not very long. Yes, her mom died. Yes, you're very right about that one. My dad is cool. Hi Z, welcome Lisbeth. Do you edit your music on Adobe something? No, I don't. Yes, I very much believe in that, Clarissa. I've only released a fraction of the information I'm planning on releasing on this channel, but I have to, just do it or whatever. Let's see here. Sorry to interrupt the whole music discussion. What do you think of Dave Chappelle's The Closer? I didn't watch it. I don't know. I guess, from what I understand, I don't think it's that funny. I mean, I think it's almost more offensive that he did a stand-up special that's probably not that funny than it is that he's transphobic, just because, he's had a great history as a comedian. I don't know why he has to stoop to just, okay, here's the thing. When cis people make jokes about trans people, it is literally the bottom of the barrel jokes. The jokes about trans people that are actually funny come from the trans community because we actually understand the experience. But hearing cis people be like, there's this, oh, wow, oh, and I was fooled. Dude, that joke has literally played out a million times since the 1970s. If you're gonna make jokes about trans people, at least come with some original material. I haven't seen The Closer, so I don't know. Probably not gonna watch it, but I don't have very strong opinions about it either way. I just think I don't think joking about trans people is off the table. I just think come with some unique material, bring some original thoughts instead of, oh, trans person's not, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, we've all heard that one, it's a great joke there. It's very good, come up with something original. Let's see. So there's that. The way you describe sound and music, spirituality is sort of how I think of poetry and language. I think that's super rad, yeah. And once again, that comes back to this ubiquitousness of connecting things of information, right? So I think the reason why you're having that connection with your passions and the reason why I have that connection with my passion is ultimately there's a similar process or material or force that's occurring there, I love every word you're saying. Everything is resonating so much. I love that. Let's see. Zia, everything about you gives me hope that I can be the person I want to be. You're so bright. I really believe you can be the person you want to be. So I wish you the best of luck in that. Oh my God, she answered all my questions. I didn't even super chat. I don't answer super chat priorities. Almost every question I've answered hasn't been super chat. I'm incredibly thankful if you super chat, but you don't have to do that for me to answer your question. Maybe someday if my YouTube is huge and there's way too many questions to answer, I'll give super chat priority, but I just scroll down the thing and answer questions that catch my eye or different things, You're a professor, you big agree? Yeah, so I wasn't trying to dig at, academia, just it's oftentimes the blind leading the blind. No offense to anyone who's vision impaired here, by the way. I'm pretty vision impaired myself. Let's see. Happily join the call, Zia. Just want to say thanks for the great voice tutorials. It helps you to see direct results from putting your voice. You're seeing direct results. I'm so happy to hear that. That's really so wonderful. Do you follow a biphasic sleep cycle on and off sometimes? I would prefer to, but it's hard for me because I just kind of stay up when I want to stay up, and I go to sleep when I want to go to sleep, and it ends up kind of sometimes falling biphasic and other times not. Never been to one of your streams before. Hi, Ghost. Oh, that's a cute name. Ghost with an O-O in the middle. I like that. You're welcome here. Everyone welcome. Ghost. Emily H., what would a tuning based on irrationals instead of whole numbers sound like? Ooh, good question, Emily. What would it sound like? You hear it every day. It's what your pianos are tuned to. It's what the guitars are tuned to. 12-note equal temperament is literally a tuning based on where you take the number 2, because that represents a doubling, the octave of frequency, and then you do irrational 12th roots of 2. So the 1 out of 12th root of 2 is the first note. The second, the 2 of 12th root of 2 is the second note in the 12-note equal temperament system. That is what temperament means. It means introducing irrationality in your frequency ratios to try to meet some compromise. So right now, this is 31 irrational notes in front of me. But it happens to converge in such a way that it gets closer to rationals. Now, in my compositions, I prefer to use rational tunings over irrational tunings because I think they have more like Gestalt magic in them. But you hear irrational tuning every day. It's what 12-note equal temperament is, and that's exactly why I am a microtonalist, because if we're going to use an irrational tuning system, we might as well use an irrational tuning system that approximates rationality better, you know? There's nothing well approximated in 12-note equal temperament except the fifth. The fifth is a very close approximation, but in order to get the fifth to be that way, we sacrifice the intonation on the thirds by 14%. So it's a bit of a trade-off there, and that's really what the whole rational-irrational tuning is about. So, yeah. Z, how did you get the voice you did? Can others do the same voice, or is it coined your own, no steals? Oh, you can get my voice. I mean, if you want, yeah. I mean, anyone can. I just practiced a lot. I practiced nonstop, hours every day for years, you know? And these days now I get paid practice. I teach, like I said earlier, anywhere between 4 to 8 hours of voice lessons, somewhere in that ballpark usually each day. And all of that is teaching people how to feminize their voice. So I'm just practicing every day. Every single day I'm getting better. How do you spell Rameau? R-A-M-E-A-U? Rameau? Ramois, kind of like beauty. Okay. Irrational tuning sounds exactly like a bell. Well, that's not exactly true. You can have irrational tunings that sound like a bell. Those are inharmonic kind of tunings. But, you know, if we have a linear irrational tuning, then you'll get 12-note equal temperament, like I said earlier. Okay. Zia, are you neurodiverse? Maybe. Yeah, I think, you know, someone sat down with me for a long time who was like, the leader of this Asperger's Awareness Foundation, and they told me they think I have Asperger's. I have not been formally diagnosed with any kind of Asperger's or what. I definitely tend to kind of not that, but in the same way, I've learned social communication quite well, and I've learned how to communicate very effectively. So I don't know. When I was in middle school, they thought I had something. They thought I had something, and then they did tests on me and stuff, and did other stuff, and it didn't come back with anything like that. They told me I had really bad ADHD, though. I went to a psychiatrist and psychiatrist, and they did this ADHD test, and they're like, oh, you're like super ADHD. So very big ADHD. Let's see. See, your reviews on magic and the truth of the self and how they translate to sound and music resonate with me so much. It's why I study music myself. It's so amazing to hear that take. I mean, that's what I love about it, is we get to hear. We get to sense and have a sensory experience of some truth elsewhere. And even though we don't get to see the bigger truth, it's a little taste of it, you know. It's something that we can get close to. It's something we can interact with. And it's just, to me, it's closer to the source. Do you have many hobbies? Yes, lots of hobbies. Although these days they're all just music-based hobbies, you know, sound-based in different ways. Now we're thinking of music like it's the 15th century, just math. Kind of. They didn't think of music as just math in the 15th century. Theorists perhaps thought of it that way, and tuning theorists perhaps thought of it that way. Composers didn't, though. Just like in the, you know, the 12th century, they were singing parallel organum. They were singing discant. They were singing these different styles of music, which were just based on vibe, you know. Hold a note, go up, find the perfect fifth, come back down, and at that point you have oblique organum. Parallel, oblique, organum. Sub Z, just vibing. Yo, what up, Xeno Index? I hope you're doing well. Working down your microtonal to-do list. Thanks for being such an inspiration. I have to go soon, but I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Over the Hilltop. Do you follow any physical exercise in order to better transition? For a while I was doing lower body exercise. I kind of fell off the gym since COVID started. So I'm really wanting to get back into the gym because I definitely want to. What about tunings based on imaginary numbers? Check out Stephen Weigel's album Emoji. I think he's got some of that. Imaginary number, irrational, all kinds of crazy stuff. Do you have perfect pitch? No, I don't. Kind of glad I don't. Because perfect pitch is a learned skill, and if you learned perfect pitch to only have 12 notes, then you'd always hear like things like against their tone colors. I don't think you always have to, but I'm a very relative listener. So The discrete pitch itself doesn't matter to me at all. All that matters is that pitch and how the distances of everything relating to it are. If Sierra ran for president, she'd balance the budget, eliminate hunger. Thanks. And then dissolve the government. You got it. That's right. That's what I would do. Favorite music YouTubers? I don't really watch. Typically, the things that I know a lot about, like voice, music, tuning, I don't really watch content on that. You know, I learn in different ways. I learn by doing or thinking my own way or reading literature on the topic. So like that's why when someone asks like what's a recommendation for voice YouTubers I don't really know. I don't watch that stuff. Same with music theory YouTubers. I don't really know. I know there's like 12 Tone, there's Adam Neely. I don't really watch their stuff though. Maybe if it pops up in my suggested, I'll click it. There is a good composer, there's a good composer. He teaches an orchestration class on YouTube. Alan Bell something. Alan something. He's great. I love his videos though. That's a channel I actually am a fan of. So I don't know. Typically things I know a lot about, I typically don't go to YouTube to learn more about, you know. The information that I need to be on a high level, I have to kind of go in specific places or create my own ideas. You got to train your voice to stay in that range. You trained your voice to stay in its range as a child. And after you hit puberty, that's what voice cracking is. It's you basically, you know, feeling your instrument change and then changing where your voice exists. I don't have to do anything to stay in this range anymore. I just talk. But yes, in order to develop this voice from a masculine starting point, I had to learn to do it and normalize it. It was a lot of work, but it was very worth it. Oh, okay. Let's see here. Oh, the fact that you said you learned this social behavior might be a good giveaway. Yeah, I wasn't always a social person. I used to be very, very introverted. As I transitioned, I became more outgoing and more comfortable interacting with people. But I was definitely kind of missed a lot of social cues for a long time. But I feel like I've learned how to adapt to that and live a much more fulfilled life because of that. See, is the trans flag people. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that so much. I really am so thankful to have your support. Like, I really appreciate it so much. Like, it's weird because it's one of those things that, like, you know, the more my stuff grows, the harder it is to feel a personal connection with every supporter, just because that's the nature of, like, the digital communication space we're in. But it really is not lost on me. I'm so infinitely thankful to have the support that I have to do what I do. It really means the world to me. So I will do everything I can not to squander that or violate that sort of trust and that pact. And I will always try to do the best I can for trans people as a whole. How did you get into music production? Honestly, I was a kid. I downloaded Audacity, downloaded samples from like some sample website, just started mashing them up. And then I ended up pirating Fruity Loops when I was a kid. Actually, my cousin gave me Fruity Loops, like, it was back when it was Fruity Loops, not FL Studio. It was like Fruity Loops like 4 or something like that. Fruity Loops 5 on a CD. And then I used that, and then I started to learn production on that. And then the rest was history. I just taught myself production by just producing and playing with sound. What would happen if we didn't approximate the harmonic series, but a different one, like the Pythagorean series that has its own sound? There's multiple types of series that you can approximate. So if you go on Zen Wiki, you can see there's things called the metal series, the gold series, the meta-harmonic series. There's all these different types of series. It's just the harmonic series is the only one that naturally occurs. You know? So, yeah. Let's see here. And since it's the one that naturally occurs, it's the one that naturally occurs when you're speaking and singing. It's the one that occurs when I bow my cello. It's the one that occurs when you strike a string. It's the one that occurs when columns of air vibrate through a space. So naturally, it's like it makes more sense to base our tuning systems around that, or at least approximations of it, since the majority of timbres that we play with are harmonic timbres. Now, of course, if you're trying to use just intonation and you're using inharmonic bells, there will be cool things where the fundamentals will be harmonic with each other, but the partials themselves are misaligning. There's also a fascinating text you should look into if you're interested in the math of tuning and timbre. It's the Cetheres book on tuning tuning and spectrum timbre, on tuning and timbre spectrum or something like that. And, you know, it's a wonderful, wonderful book, but it will show you how you can make things that sound like they are justly tuned to harmonic ratios, but you can do that with irrational ratios if the timbre that you're using is irrational. So tuning is really an interaction of how you choose timbre versus how you choose pitch relationship. And if you're using a certain timbre with a certain profile, and then you have a pitch relationship that doesn't support that profile, then you'll get this perception of things kind of beating. But if you use a different timbre, even if it's irrational, an irrational timbre, and then you use an irrational tuning that matches that timbre, suddenly it will sound like it's in tune, right? So yeah, there's some interesting stuff there. What are some underrated music discoveries you wish to recommend to us? Ben Monder. Okay, I'll give you some music. Right? Ben Monder, 1. Mike Battaglia, 2. Other undervalued artists. There's so many. There's literally so many. Those are the 2 that come to mind, Mike Battaglia and Ben Monder. How do synthesizers work? Synthesizers work because they send different amounts of electricity through different components, which then modulate the electricity in different ways. The electricity is basically a wave going back and forth, and then you can convert that into a speaker cone action, so the speaker mechanically pushes in and out as the waveform feeding into it goes up and down, and then we can essentially use that as modulation. So we could take that electrical source, run it through an LFO, and now the LFO is changing the voltage in this kind of pattern, and then we could take that LFO and apply it to pitch, and now the pitch is being modulated by that LFO. It's really just signals all the way down. It's just waves all the way down. And yeah, electronic instruments don't work. For you, what was it like to go from being misgendered to being completely passing? Well, it happened very slowly over a long period of time, and I still live with the trauma of not passing. So I can't say it was like an overnight thing, you know, so it wasn't novel. It was a gradual process of always being misgendered and then slowly getting gendered more correctly, and slowly. And then it became a weird place where I passed to everyone else, but then to myself I didn't pass. And then only really in the past about the past year or so, I've really been passing to myself, or about the past year and a half since FFS. So I can't really answer that question very well, because it wasn't like a discrete event where one day I was just passing. It was this transition of my life, and I still live with the scars and trauma of not passing, and the scars and trauma of the transphobia that I experienced along the way. So, you know, I'm very thankful to be where I am today, though, that's for sure. Okay, I'm going to read down the comments and I'm going to start to wrap up. You're a trans goddess, thank you so much. Neoclassical metal, cool. I feel normalization is hardest. It's definitely more of a grind. It definitely is a bit more challenging. It just depends, though. I've seen some people who the difficult part's the technique, and then once they have better technique and a good sound, then they normalize very easily. It's kind of different for everyone. Tantricool, yeah, he seems cool. I've seen maybe a couple of his videos, I think. Oh, I see. But you were implying it's training's part of the activity. Yeah, okay. Gotcha. I thought you were trying to make like a snarky like remark. Sorry about that. That makes sense. Do you think metal music and classical music go well together? Yeah, I think all music goes well together. I don't really like see genres, you know. It's all this continuous experience of sound, and there's certain aesthetic trends in certain classes and fields of music, and I think you can pretty much make any aesthetic work with different trends. The stream is going so smoothly that time is standing still. It's about time for it to run out because I need to eat some dinner. Let's see. Pretty much everyone starts on music production by pirating FL. I'm glad to say I own all my plugins now. That's one of the things I feel really privileged about, since the community supports me so much and my voice teaching and career is really supportive. I can buy all my plugins. So one of the very first things I did once I started making like enough money to like live on is I bought Valhalla Shimmer and Valhalla Room and Valhalla Ubermod, because I love the Valhalla plugins. They're like my favorite plugins ever. but I had torrented them, you know, because I didn't have any money. So literally one of the first purchases I did was buy FL and buy the Valhalla plugins, because I respect that person's work so much. Amazing work, amazing work. But I also don't think you should have to pay if you don't have money, you know? If you're like a kid and you're like 17 years old, you have no money, like why should you not be able to make art, right? Like in the way that you kind of want with the software. Obviously it's someone's, they created it, they put work into it, so they deserve to be compensated. Yes. And you know what? I hope if that teenager ever gets to a point where they're financially solvent enough to afford those programs, they then choose to buy them, you know? But I don't think we should like paywall the creation with some of these tools that make it very like free, you know, or very free to create. So do you think any music on the last radio in the last 50 years is so unoriginal or bad? Is it too simple for you to enjoy? Nope. I listen to a lot of pop music. I don't have that opinion at all. When I was younger, when I was like 18, 19, I did feel that way. I was like, oh, pop music is so simple. These low I'm not like that anymore. I love all sound. It doesn't matter what sound form it takes. I love pop music. I love Ariana Grande. I love Dua Lipa. I love I don't know. I listen to a lot of pop music. So I don't think that way at all. I don't like feel like my intellectual experience with music stops me from appreciating it at all. If anything, I think when I'm listening to music, I'm not being intellectual. I'm just experiencing. I'm having a sensory experience and trying to connect to that as closely as possible. And that's where the beauty is for me. It's not about thinking. You know, I get to turn my brain off if I want, right? So you're my inspiration. I admire you. Thank you so much. It's really quite an honor. I hope I can always do right by that. Are you a fan of Jacob Collier? I think he's cool. I'm not a fan of his like music, but I'm a fan of like what he, you know, his like output. I think it's awesome. It's great to exist in a world where he's doing what he's doing, because he's always sort of pushing people to see music in new ways and think about music in new ways. Aesthetically, I like some of his music. Hideaway is great. His Moon River cover, or his Moon River piece with choir, was really great. I like some of his things. I really love that acoustic version with Morrow. I don't know what the name of the piece is, but it's one of Collier's pieces with someone, Morrow. I love the Ocean Wide Canyon Deep acoustic version. So, I mean, there's pieces of him that I like. I'd love to collaborate with him in the future. But I wouldn't say I'm like a super fan of his. I just really appreciate what he does. Okay. Thank you. Ever tried voice acting? You'd sound amazing. I haven't really, just because it's hard to get an offer that would like be worth doing because of what I'm already doing with voice. But I would love to, you know, if for some reason I ever stop teaching TransVoiceLessons or something, which I won't, maybe I'll do some voice acting. I definitely think I could do voice acting a lot of different ways. So I'll be on the lookout for that for sure. I'm glad you getting it could improve your image of yourself. Oh my gosh. Fumble tongue. Before FFS, I used to cry for hours a day about the way I looked. I couldn't even like live life regularly, you know? FFS was one of the most important experiences I ever had in my life, and I owe it entirely to TransVoiceLessons as a platform, because that's where literally every single penny that I paid for my FFS came from. So thank you all for being here. I'm so thankful for it. Okay. Mike is asking, how can you still get a higher voice if there's vocal cord damage? That's a tough question. I will defer that question. I want to make a vocal health video eventually. That's a tough question because it depends on what vocal damage you have. I can't answer that in good faith without knowing, you know, the exact thing that you're going through or whatever. Yes, I have resources on the Discord about normalization. In the search index mostly, and I've done different workshops talking about that as well, which that information is available. You can always also, if you're on my Discord server, okay, time to plug my Patreon. I do have a Patreon, and one of the perks is my Discord, and you're welcome to tag me on there at any point in time and ask questions. I mean, I've been using Discord a little less lately just because some stuff in my life came up and took time off being sick and everything, but there's a great community there. You're welcome to tag me and ask me questions if you have questions about voice. There's also over 1 million posts on the server, which you can search through to find different resources. There's audio files, and it's a pretty supportive place. And I do workshops on there typically once every 1 to 2 months. So hopefully I'll see you on the Discord server. Very thankful for everyone who supports in that way. It's very awesome, even if it's just $1. It's just cool to have like backing from people. You make a lot of us hopeful, and you seem to be a really awesome person that cares. Thank you. I really do care about trans people as a whole. Like, it's obviously hard to care about every individual person just because I don't know everybody here. I'd love to get to know you all, but I care so much about honoring and taking care and respecting the position that I've been given. And I'm so thankful for it, and I want to liberate trans people the best that I can. So I do really care a lot, and I love what I do, both with music and both with voice, and I spend a lot of my time thinking, how can I possibly do better? And I constantly feel like I'm not doing enough, or I'm not doing what I should do, or I can do more, so I'm always struggling with that. I feel bad when I fall behind certain feedback on Patreon, or if I have to reschedule students or push my schedule around. I feel very guilty about those things because I care so strongly about them. But yes, universe, please protect Zia. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That won't go unheard. How long did it take to learn voice training? It's different for everybody. It's not a one-size-fits-all process because it's very non-linear. No, I've never heard of Osquin. I'll have to check that stuff out. See, thank you for sharing your time with us. It's definitely a vibe with my tribe. I love that. That's awesome. Thank you. I recognize your name. You were a super chatter. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay. Scrolling back down. Claire, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it so much, everybody. That really, really means so much. Just everything. Even $1, I don't care. It means so much to know that support is there. Someone asked what my second YouTube channel is. Here, I'll post it again. Go ahead and follow this, please, because, I have a strong incentive to post on TransVoiceLessons and stream here. But if you want more music stuff, you can check out my music channel where I post all my music and stuff like that. When you feel like you're not doing enough, just keep in mind that your prior output alone has such a lasting impact on so many people. Thank you. That means a lot. That's what all my friends say. But it's still hard to get that in the mind all the way, Thank you so much again, Claire. I really appreciate it. You do great for voice acting, I believe. Ever played tabletop games? Only a little. Role-playing games. I played this one game. I don't know what it's called, but I loved it. It was like not a normal tabletop game. It's like where you work back, where you like get an idea for objects and things that are going to be in the story, and then you like role play it backwards. I forget what it's called. I played it with Clover, Hearth, and Hurley, who are people in the voice space I collaborate with. It was so fun. I would love to do more of that. Like, I would love to do more role playing when I can find more time for it. No, I've never heard of Vasif Adigozalov. That's hard to say. That's a cool name though. I'm not even trans. I just find you fascinating to listen to. Well, thanks. See, a Rose X Dua Lipa. Oh my god, that'd be so cool. I'd love to collaborate with Dua Lipa's so pretty. Oh my god. So, let's see. There we go. Okay, scrolling back down. Hi, thank you so much, Shiloh. I really appreciate that. Have you had any kind of plastic surgery? And if so, yes, I've had a lot of plastic surgery. So, just be aware when you're looking at me. This is not like hormones, it's hormones plus FFS, plus a hair transplant. I had a lot of hair loss. My hair went all the way back to here at one point. So I've had a hair transplant. I've had FFS. That's all the surgery I've had. I think I'm gonna get breast augmentation in December. What do y'all think about that? I'm like okay-ish with my boobs, kind of, but like I think it'd be sweet to have more. So I'm going to do that sometime in December when I have time off. Trans liberation. Yes. Liberate trans people now. Trans Voice Lessons slogan is liberate all trans voices. Period. I'm not sure about that, Mensana. I've been to Thailand before. Let's see here. Hannah, thank you so much. I love what you do. I appreciate that so much. much thank you. And once again, thanks everyone who's super chatted. It blows my mind. I keep forgetting I have that turned on this channel, because I did so many live streams without turning it on, and then it's crazy. So thank you all. I really appreciate it. A vocal health video. Yeah, definitely doing that soon, Aiden. I filmed a good video tonight. I can't wait to publish it. I think I had a mental block on making content primarily based on my appearance. I think I broke it. So I'm hoping that allows me to just more easily hit record and just talk and make content, you know? So more feminine singing videos. I'd love to do that. Yep. Never feel bad. You're all human. Thank you. I really appreciate that. A tabletop game sounds really cool. I can't remember what it was called. I wish I knew what it was called. Something red something, I think. I don't know. It was like, or it wasn't Clues. It wasn't like a murder thing. Godlike stream, by the way, thank you. Is your Discord server open? It's actually a Patreon perk right now. I think in the future I'll open it. I've been thinking about that more, but I'm starting to get to a point where it's like, in terms of support, I'm very well supported and it's okay, and I think I can manage to open that more. So, or I might open a section of the server. It just depends. I've had it like that because I don't want like weirdos from YouTube. I used to get, and this is actually less a problem now, I used to get a lot of transphobic people, a lot of fascists around like 2018 or so on my YouTube channel. So I kind of paywalled my Discord server really to keep those people out. And it has been effective in generating revenue for me as well. But that's becoming less important as time goes on. So, you know, I want to create more inclusive space as time goes on. Let's see. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's Oberon. Just subscribed. Oh, thank you so much. There's like hours of workshops. So if you guys like me talking in these open formats, there's so many workshops on the Patreon that you can access. Even for just $1. At a single dollar gets you all my Patreon content. So you can check that out. I don't like paywall Patreon content at different tiers. Can you steal someone's voice? Yeah, definitely. Although it's hard. Micro behaviors. Can you show us how to steal someone's voice? Very, very hard. But it's doable for sure. You mentioned you liked Ravel. I love Ravel. There's all these unheard Azeri composers, and let me take note of that, because that actually does interest me. As Azeri composers, Azagov composer. Ooh. One of Azerbaijan's most distinguished composers, the son of Kanadu Zulfu Agdazalov, brother of Violent. Cool. I'll check his music out. I appreciate the recommendation. That's awesome. I love Ravel. Oh, here we go. Someone commented a minute ago on my YouTube. They said, hey, I'm the one who asked about exercises in your chat today, and I stand corrected. You have a lot of exercises in this video. I was just too impatient to get to them. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's funny that you commented that, but thank you. I appreciate it. Let's see. Honkers badonkers. Did you do your hair transplant before FFS? No, I didn't. I did it after. I did it after because I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, and I got a coronal incision, so you can't see my incision site. And so that actually takes your hairline a little further back. So I got a coronal incision, cranioplasty type 3, and then I got the hair transplant too. I drew my own. Do you guys like my hairline? I drew it. I think it's a little too low sometimes. It could maybe stand to be just a little higher, but I drew it myself. Literally, I sat with a pen, I sat with a marker, and it took me like an hour and a half before my surgery. My like hair transplant surgeon's like sitting there like come on. You know, he was fine. He's like, take as much time as you need, but I could tell he was getting frustrated. I was taking forever. But I would like do it, and I'd be like, no, it's asymmetric. It's bad on this side. It's good on this side. It took me a long time, but you know, I always knew what I wanted my hairline to look like, so I just had to make sure I realized it. You had BA, and you were happy with it. Hormones didn't do much for you in that way. I love to hear that you're happy with it. That's really awesome. Gender dysphoria is painful. Gosh, it's like the most painful thing I've ever felt, honestly. And these days, I'm living out of dysphoria. Like, dysphoria to me sometimes happens every now and then, like an arrow through my heart. Dysphoria hits me, and it's usually only for a couple seconds, maybe a couple minutes, and then I move on with my life. But I mean, early in my transition and before transition, I was living in like agony through dysphoria every day. So for people who are in the chat, I know there's people that are currently in that phase, and I'm really sorry you have to go through it. It's so painful. There's literally, I still live with so much trauma around that. Like, I started seeing this person, and you know, like, they love doing candid pictures, and they would take candid pictures of me, and I'd like freak out, and they're like, what's wrong? You look so pretty. I'm like, I think I look like a monster, you know, like, I live with these like scars and traumas from gender dysphoria, and they fade, but I'm not sure they'll ever fully go away. And I think that's just part of the experience, I guess, but I'm better having experienced all of it. So yeah. Oh, that's a great question, Louis Gear. I'd love to make a video like that sometime, you know, talking about more singing stuff. Lots of people have requested that. Are you in NFTs? I talked about that earlier. You've been beautiful since our first lesson. Oh, Rue. Oh, everyone send hearts in chat for Rue. Rue is such a wonderful person, a wonderful being in this world. I'm very grateful, and I'm better off having worked with her and known her. And I'm so thankful that I was able to help you in some way. Playing the stream from the beginning at 2x. How do you practice a voice in an unsafe environment? I talked a little bit about it. I didn't go discreetly into it just because it would kind of hold the chat up a bit. I'll make something on that. I promise. I'll come back to that. I've learned so much since joining your Discord. See, I'm so glad to hear that. This is actually super relaxing and interesting background. Love the stream so much. Love that. I'm a big stream watcher. Like, I'm always on Twitch watching streams if I'm not doing other stuff. Hold on, I got a little text message here. I'm gonna take a picture for someone. Okay. Back to these things. Who are your inspirations when it comes to your singing voice? Not a lot. I just do whatever my heart tells me. I mean, I do have like some singing inspirations, but it's less like, oh, I want to sound like them, and more like I just like the way their voice sounds. I like really light voices, typically. So yeah, when it comes to my aesthetic that I want for my singing voice, it's just derived from my own, whatever the music calls for, you know. I'll sing any way I have to if it's what the music says I need to do, but otherwise I don't think much about it. It wasn't microscope, but that I'll look into that maybe. How long should one practice a concept before integrating things? Is there a proper order? Yes and no. I don't want you to think of these concepts as too rigid, you know. When we think about vocal weight, when we think about resonance, when we think about these things, it's very tempting to think of them as discrete components, but really they're descriptions. They help us, they provide a framework for listening, a framework for taking action, and a framework for exploring and critiquing. You know, they're not like prerequisites you want to check off on a checklist. They give you a foundation and framework to think about and reflect on what you're doing. And then as that's sort of progressing, you know, the goal should always just be to get closer to the sound you want to make, right? So if your goal is I want to sound female or whatever, you know, your goal should be to always try to get closer to that and use weight and resonance as frameworks to understand maybe what you're struggling with and maybe what you might need to isolate and practice out here, then try to integrate in order to make that more feminine sound, right? I think sometimes people think about this too linearly, and the linear thinking can be really frustrating because vocal skills and vocal learning, motor skills are very non-linear by nature. So yeah, I mean, there is typically a proper order. Typically what I like to do is I like to make sure someone has decent control enough with their sound production to where, you know, they can play with their voice without sounding strained or uncomfortable. They can reach a pitch area that's kind of what we're going to be shooting for without sounding too breathy or uncomfortable or strained or forced or labored. Really, can you produce intentional sound without sounding labored? That's kind of the first check mark for me. And then after that, then I'll start to bring in other things that are more feminizing in terms of like resonance in particular. Because the thing is, if you can't do like basic sound production in a comfortable way, like trying to throw in everything else is going to make it kind of harder. But definitely don't think of like weight rather than, don't think of it as hyper discrete things, you know, like it's a perceptual description that helps us interpret what we're doing better. So I have a video coming out soon I'll be working on that talks a little bit more about this, but one of the most fascinating things to me and why most people get confused about voice is this parallel identities of things that are occurring. There's always a perceptual level, an acoustic level, a biomechanical level, and oftentimes students try to think on the biomechanical or think on the acoustic, but we have to think on the sensory experience level because that's how we experience things, which I'll talk more about in the future. Okay, everyone. Amazing stream. You love my hairline. Thank you. It's nice. Thank you. Fabulous. Where did you get FFS? Dr. Keo Jompo was my surgeon. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Okay, everyone. It's coming to an end. S21 Ultra has edge screen. Is that what this is? I think so. Z, you're simply incredible. My life is enriched for knowing you. Thank you. I really appreciate that, Amanda. Thank you, Angel. Natalie Hoffman. Z was in my instrumental in my story. That really means so much. I'm seriously so thankful. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a great tip for makeup, Thriving in Amber. Is that phone huge or your hands super small? I do have people tell me I have small hands. I don't think I have that small of hands, but this phone is huge. That's right. Yeah. I don't think my hands are like big or small. They're my tools of creation though. And my hands mean a lot to me. Note 20 Ultra. Yeah, that's what it is, I think. I think my next phone, I'm going to go back to iPhone maybe. I don't know. I kind of miss my old iPhone. I don't know. Okay, everyone. It is time to say goodbye. You just got in here, time for the end? Well, you can always watch it from the beginning. It'll go up on YouTube. Hey, don't forget to like this stream. If you're listening and you haven't liked it, go ahead and like it. Feel free to leave a comment on the stream afterwards, like on the YouTube video. That'll help the algorithm do its thing. Thank you all so much for the super chats. Like, seriously, it was amazing. This whole stream was amazing. I had no clue what to expect streaming this late at night. I never stream this late at night. But since there's so many people here and it was one of the best streams, I'll start streaming more at night. How frequently do I stream at night? Or how frequently do I stream? Not very frequently. But hey, if this is how it'll work, I think I'll stream more frequently. I loved it. I'm always a night person, so the fact that I could just turn on my stream at night and everyone's here to chill, yeah, I'm down with it. So thank you all so much. Hearts in chat for everyone. Let's give love to everybody who is here, okay? Everyone. Not just me, but everyone here, and this amazing community that we've built, and you're a part of it, and we're all here for the betterment of trans people, and I just love it so much, and I'm so blessed to be a conduit to create this space, and gosh, I just love it. Oh my God, you're beautiful and smart. Thank you so much, Fernando. I appreciate it. Sure, if you're going to stream, yes, I will. I'll stream more often if you all like it. Thank you. Yes, hearts in chat for everyone. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. I'm going to go eat some food. Take care, everyone. Thank you for being here. Bye.